Jarvis, drop my needle.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you are interested in listening to idiots, you came to the right place. Have a nice day.
Woo! That's an attention getter.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot.
What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law.
Oh my God, he's an idiot.
You know, of course, that you're out of your jurisdiction.
Personally, I think you're an idiot.
But that's the evidence in the car.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fiends, and welcome to Free Range Idiocy, podcast about everything, but mostly just the stuff we like. After a 20-year hiatus, WWE decided it was about time to resurrect the Bad Blood pay-per-view with just one less team, because, you know, shrinkflation. Times are tough out there for everyone. It was a fairly stacked card featuring Hell in a Cell returning home to the event that spawned the dastardly contraption meant to settle all family business. So would Trips and company continue their run of well-received PLEs, or would this one fall flat on its face? We adjudicate the event in this episode 180, because now we got Bad Blood. We're definitely going to get sued just for me saying that, but you're welcome. I am your Uncle Todd, and with me, as always, is the man who's still under a gag order pertaining to a settlement he reached with WWE last year over the innovation of putting footholes in the Hell in a Cell cage. He has been my partner in Idiocy for over 2 decades and can climb a chain link fence like nobody's business. I give you the man they call Jim.
Greetings and salutations, my friend. I think I needed to duck for a moment. I think a tomato was thrown at us after that rendition you just did on us. So.
That was actually pretty good considering I didn't rehearse that, and I think I've heard that song once.
Sir, you sing in a band yourself. You are much more versed in the vocal skills, so I shall not cast dispersions on...
Oh, no, you're just going to think it, though.
Well, maybe.
I can actually hear it through the screen.
How are you doing? How are you doing?
I am doing quite well. And yourself, sir?
Cannot complain. It's been a fun weekend. We'll get into it in Week in Geek. There's been some culinary adventures. There's been some milestones reached that we need to cover, and there's been some football, ladies and gentlemen, along with some wrestling. It's a full weekend, baby.
That sounds like a segue to me.
It's right here, Ray. It's looking at me.
So funky.
Yes, I do.
Who
yes,
don't
I
feel
do.
funky, if you will.
If you will. Well, let's jump right into it. We have Tales from the Fantasy Gridiron, week number 5. Here we go.
Yeah.
Well, sir, should I start or should you start?
You go right ahead.
All right. Well, this week, coming off of a humbling performance last week. Oh, dear God. Where I got, my butt handed to me in a 20-point loss. Made some headway here with a 32-point victory this week as quick slants behind the solid rocket arm of Joe Burrow, who put up 66 fantasy points. We'll get into how that was 11 shy of something Uncle Todd could have played, but left it on the bench. But... T. Higgins, who has been underperforming this season, 29 fantasy points, my wide receiver doing some damage. Debo was quite muted this week at 5 points, but we will take what the rest of the team provided. But with running backs put out a solid performance. Robinson from New York Giants, he put up 16, and then Kansas City defense put up 17. So I just had, across the board, a very solid week. Things are looking good going into week number 6. I don't think I'm going to be claiming any players off the waiver wire. I'm just going to roll the dice and let it roll, baby, and see what happens. So,
well, aren't we just happy-go-lucky and fancy-free?
3-2 in 4th place, and feeling good about where we are. How about you, sir? How was your week? Was it fine and dandy? Was it rocky? Was it
I got my ass kicked.
If you will.
Not so much. I mean, it wasn't that big of it. It was 185 to 174.
That's respectable.
The interesting things, the highlights for my week, Lamar Jackson, ladies and gentlemen, 26 completions for 4 passing TDs, 348 passing yards. I'm sure he had some miscellaneous ground yardage as well. 70 points in our Yahoo scoring league. And then Chicago's defense acquitted themselves quite nicely from me, 22 points. The issue is 70 points in a fantasy league is pretty damn good. Unfortunately, I had just picked up Kirk Cousins, and he was good for 77, which hurts.
Ouch.
And
that's crazy, dude. You had 147 quarterback points on your team. That's incredible.
I know. Yeah, just rub it in some more.
It's incredible.
The problem being that Saquon Barkley was on his bye, so I had to go with Zach Moss from the Bengals, and that didn't go well. That was a whole 16 points. The thing is, had I gone for McLaughlin as a running back, plus I'd started Kirk Cousins, and then maybe just started, I don't know. Actually, no, that would have done maybe if I'd started one other guy in place of Marvin Harrison. If I'd taken Marvin Harrison Jr. out again and gotten 3 extra points there, I probably would have tied or something. I don't do the math because it's not worth it. It was just another one of those weeks where it's like, dude, no matter what, even though there's not much I could have done, I still lost. And that is the frustrating thing about fantasy football.
Are you glad you came back?
No. I'm really beginning to understand why I hate this stuff now.
I was surprised you wanted back in, honestly.
I know.
Me
too. Me too. And
How's next week looking? How's next week looking?
Oh, who cares? I haven't looked at it. I swapped one guy around to make sure there wasn't a hole in my lineup, but I'm not going to think about it for another
It's a pretty even
days.
matchup. You're taking on the third place team. You are right now in, let's see, 7th place. 7th place.
I guess I'm taking it that I'm one of the teams that only gets to play the garbage team once this year.
No, I don't think so.
Because that's just another kick to the joy department.
Let me just check. Actually, you are.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It wasn't on purpose, I swear.
I bet you play him twice.
Let me check.
You do. I know you do. I didn't even look at it. I know you do.
Actually, that's who I play the last week of the season, too. Just call me Dusty Rhodes, the Booker / wrestler.
All right, Mr. Booker Man.
If you will. You see, baby, you gotta have.
I'm just gonna get a straw and put it in my whiskey bottle.
You gotta put the world title on me, baby. All right. Anyways, enough with the fantasy football.
Yes, thank you. Let's move on to something else.
This will be a little bit of self-service for the man they call Tim if I haven't done enough of that already. But this weekend, culinary shenanigans and a milestone from a transit perspective. I'll start with the milestone.
Oh, my.
Thank you very much. As many of you know, and as Uncle Todd, has heralds and is quite jealous of, I have a scooter that I take both to the metro train station that I live near and downtown to my office. And last week, I closed out on a milestone, 3 bills, ladies and gentlemen, 300 miles I have traveled on my very well running scooter. Gets me to and from. Solid product from GoTrack.
Scooter, just That's the most undignified. Do you put stickers on it, like this, like the puffy ones with the googly eyes?
I might have.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm doing a podcast with a 5-year-old.
You make fun, but I got to tell you, like today when I was taking it back to the train station from the office, and this was like at 4:15 in the afternoon when I thought it would be kind of like quieter, not at rush hour, when everyone's trying to head to the train station. There was 3 scooters, me included, 4 bicycles, all moving in like a formation toward the train station.
Isn't
I'm like,
that nice?
How many people?
You've
you know
made
what I mean?
scooter friends.
I'm just saying.
Maybe you should start your own club.
Not as unique as you might think. But anyways, that is the transit milestone.
I'm not saying it's not unique. I'm just saying it's sad.
Why is it sad?
It's just sad.
It's a way of getting around. And it's
the most undignified
clean
getting around.
Energy. It is, wonderful.
Well, yeah, because you're boosting it with your meat farts. You just
well, that is my turbo.
Turbo. I gotta jump the curb.
It's an extra 5 miles an hour right there. It's the old Knight Rider thing when you hit the turbo boost.
Oh, I had bratwurst last night. Too much going over the bridge.
Oh my God. All right. My weekend of culinary shenanigans started Saturday. Saturday afternoon, or actually Saturday morning, I noticed in the downtown area of which I reside, there was a chili cook-off going on. And for $20, I could buy a ticket to
$20?
That's right. $20 to enter and vote.
Little Dixie cups they were giving you?
Well, it wasn't Dixie cups. They're a little bit bigger than that. But I have the map here. I was
going to say, I thought you were going to have one left over. Like, hey, wait a minute.
I'm feeling a little peckish right now while we're recording.
That's probably still good.
But a couple of, just to read off a couple of them, I won't get into the restaurants, but basically it was 14 restaurants participating. But we had a Moroccan spiced lamb chili, which was divine. It was incredible from a flavor perspective. We had turkey chili. We had, a meat lover's chili. We had a.
Now wait a minute. Are you saying when you say we, is this you and your lovely wife, or
no?
Just
you're
referring to yourself in the royal we now?
Royal we.
Okay.
There were unfortunately there were no vegetarian chilies, so she's vegetarian.
Gone from Booker Man to King Booker. Apparently, Are you going to develop an English accent as well,
if you will? We have a Mex pork and chorizo chili, which was very good.
That sounds good. That's right up my alley. Right
Southwest chili, green pork chili. This was the one. No, it doesn't. The name does not do justice to the flavor, sir. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. This was the one that won
this sounds like a bad accident.
Stop it. And then for the most creative name, Agave Habit Texas Chili.
Oh,
get it?
I see what they did there.
Get it? So no, it was very good. It was so it was about like an hour and a half. I was roaming around all these different places, and very, very good chili all around from the different restaurants. There was one in particular I was not happy with. I told Uncle Todd I got a very soupy, bean-filled serving. There was no meats. Was not pleased. Chili. Was not pleased. Did not like it. Did not vote for them, obviously.
Did you just throw it back in their face? Like, don't you know who I am?
No, I went outside. I went in the restaurant to get it and then came outside, and I tried to work my way through it a little bit, and I'm just like, forget this. I don't want it. So I tossed it. But our favorite restaurant, which I have brought Uncle Todd to when he came and visited in June, were the victors. They were the champions, if you will, of the chili cook-off, winning the Judges Award, and the restaurant Sweet Chilangos, a new Mexican restaurant down here, won the Community Award, which is the one that I voted in. So, but I voted for Adele's, which is my favorite restaurant. So
I was going to say, if you didn't, they'd be coming after you. They're going to give it away your stool.
Herman would not be serving me the bourbon.
No,
he'd be like, "Get out of here, traitor!"
As well, they should.
Absolutely. All right. So that was that. Then later, so before I went to this, I actually bought a 2-pound flank steak.
We're just going to have to start calling this section Tim's Parade of Meat.
Indeed. Bought a 2-pound flank steak, marinated in a bourbon barbecue sauce, which was chef's kiss. Wonderful. Ended up grilling that up later.
With
what?
What else came with that?
Oh, the brats?
2 pounds of steak, and that wasn't enough.
I didn't eat the whole thing Saturday night. I ate like half of it. I ate a pound.
Really?
And then I had 2 brats with it.
I don't buy that at all.
I had leftovers. Ate them last night, by the way.
Yeah, until after the PLE.
What else were you referring to?
Midnight snack.
Ooh, yes, indeed. What were you referring to when you said what else?
Well, the brats.
Oh, the brats. Yeah. So I had 4 brats. I boiled those.
4?
And I didn't consume them all Saturday night. I was cooking them up, and then I had them across Sunday and Monday as well.
Sure.
I'm just telling you. Mm-hmm. That's what I did.
I don't believe you.
I am now a huge proponent of boiling brats and Italian sausage and then just throwing them on the grill for a couple minutes to give them a little crisp to them. I mean, so good. So good.
Yeah, I think I'm the same with hot dogs.
Yeah.
Hot dogs.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like a steamed hot dog to me, like not even grilling the hot dog, like a steamed hot dog to me is always superior to a grilled hot dog, in my opinion.
Yeah. Did you
But
watch
that's just
that?
me.
Did you watch that SNL sketch I sent you?
I did not.
Washington's Dream 2. You got to watch that. They talk about hot dogs.
Okay.
How do they make a hot dog? Is what they asked George Washington. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Or what's in a hot dog? Nobody knows.
What was it from the first one where he's like, "You were asking about temperature." No, I wasn't.
Oh, he's like, "Sir, what are you going to do for my people?" He's like, "You asked about temperature." No, I didn't. I love it. I love it. We'll get into that later on, ladies and gentlemen, referring to Nate Bargatze's, again, just stellar hosting performance on SNL this weekend. Do check it out. But nonetheless, made the steak. And then I had a little faux pas in the start time of the PLE. I thought it started at 6 Central, 7 Eastern. I was wrong. It started at 6 Eastern, which would be 5 Central. So actually, when I was done grilling, and my lovely wife manned the Brussels sprouts. So I had some baked in the oven Brussels sprouts, nice and crispy.
Because she knows you need some fiber.
Oh, definitely. Oh, good Lord. Yes, I do.
Still trying to work out the last bit of that pork belly.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still from last Monday. It's just still there.
Pretty sure it glommed onto my appendix.
Why do I feel like there's a 5-pound something inside of me? Well, that's why. But nonetheless, just wonderful dinner to start the PLE. And then Sunday went to Ditka's Sunday night for some sushi and, again, Brussels sprouts. You know, got to keep the system going, baby. And some deviled eggs. We had some deviled eggs, Ditka's.
Of course you did.
But tasted and had 2 of a wonderful cocktail called the Smashing Pumpkin. It was bullet bourbon with cold pressed lemon juice and a pumpkin spice simple syrup, and it was just divine. It was over ice. It was on ice, and it was wonderful.
Oh, yeah, you have to, yeah.
Wonderful. So that I just wanted to share that little bit of a culinary adventure I went on, not planned. I again, this chili cook-off came out of the blue for me. I wasn't paying attention. I'm like, I'm gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
Always have things going on when either we have like the beer fest or other stuff, and so this time I had a free Saturday where I could go do it. So.
We have Kalen's Comedy Corner, and now we have Tim's Cholesterol Corner. That's
Culinary Corner, not cholesterol. Come on,
it's all cholesterol. It's all cholesterol. My gosh, it's like what's your blood type?
About
you know that stuff that's in the drip pan in your grill. That
I told some of my family about what you said about like when I die and they check me out. There's gonna be mayonnaise coming out of my veins.
Dude, if your plans,
they thought that was funny.
if your plans, for the sweet by and by involve cremation, they're gonna light you up and it's gonna burn for like 3 days.
Actually, I do think I'm going to get cremated. I think I'm just going to,
You're not going to be one of those people
to
that
dust.
Like, they give you what was it, like a tree, like a seed for a tree, and then they like wrap you around it and they put you in the thing, and then they bury you, and the tree grows out of you. It's like, ain't that the most creepy way to go? No, please burn my ass, thank you. I don't want to be tree man. Like all of a sudden a femur comes up on one of the branches. Like that'd freak someone out.
Probably figure out a place to spread my ashes so it will blow about. And
Adele's is going to be like, what are you doing with that urn in here?
This is a place of business.
Rachel's going to just do a quick.
Damn it. Where's the vacuum? I'm going to end up in their vacuum. That's what's going to happen.
That's exactly where you're going to go. Spend the rest of eternity in a vacuum can, in a dirt devil canister. Hopefully they at least have a Dyson so they pull everything up and you're all in one place. Yeah. Otherwise it's going to be a little here, a little there.
Oh, boy, this got dark quickly. Went from culinary corner to death's
cremation,
door.
Cremation corner.
Cremation corner. Good God.
I'm here all night. I can come up with these.
For our younger listeners, we apologize.
For our younger listeners, cremation is what happens after you die. No.
All right, let's move
What's
this
next?
along. Let's move this along.
Okay, yes, please.
Next article is from GameRant.com. This was actually a holdover from our Week in Geek review episode. We didn't touch holdover.
Oh, holdover. Okay,
holdover.
Sorry. I thought you were talking about the Hodo maneuver.
The Holdo maneuver. No, I am not talking about that. This was a holdover from our Week in Geek episode a few episodes ago. An article from GameRant.com. Does Dave Filoni deserve some blame for the state of Star Wars? Really, to headline this article, it's talking about how Kathleen Kennedy is somewhat of a punching bag for everything that is not going well with Star Wars, and the article is questioning why we are not seeing some of this criticism thrown at Filoni, since he is the chief content officer, somewhat similar to Triple H. Yes, sir.
I know, because he isn't directly responsible for all of it. Like, he had nothing to do with Rise of Skywalker.
Well, fair enough.
I mean, just saying that is really the biggest of the turds that we're dealing with here.
Sorry, Chief Creative Officer. I didn't mean to say Chief Content Officer.
And I believe that he's only become Chief Creative Officer somewhat recently, right? Like in the last year or so.
Yep.
So you can't even necessarily lay the entire, even if you want to be like, oh yeah, the Acolyte. Dude, the Acolyte was written 2 years ago and filmed like a year ago. If anything, this guy is like just dealing with what you've gotten dealt at that point, unless he really had input prior to becoming that guy. So I don't know that you can really shoulder too much of it, because otherwise Dave's kind of responsible for the stuff that people really like Mando, Ahsoka.
Yeah.
All the Star Wars stuff lately, aside from Rogue One, that people have had not really any problem with, he's been involved with. Yeah. I don't think he had anything to do with Kenobi, did he?
Well, I don't know if he... No, that's a good question. I don't know if he did. I don't know.
So, I mean...
He's had some input, though. He's got to have had some input.
Some input, but at the same time, like, if you're dealing with, like, whose fault is it? Well, it's Kathy Kennedy, ultimately. And that's part of the deal. Like, that's why, as, like, the head of the department, you get paid a whole lot of money, and if they fire your ass, you get yourself a little golden parachute, and you get to walk away with your millions anyways.
Yeah.
So that's part of the deal. Like, the buck stops there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, does Filoni have something to do with it? Maybe. But at the same time, you can't really directly tie him to anything. So, I mean, if you want to come up with some sort of conspiracy theory, like he's it's a new world order sort of thing. It's like a shadow creative government that's going on, and Filoni's been the puppet master this whole time. I don't know why I'm getting jazz hands all of a sudden, but, unless you want to make that argument, I don't really know how much you can lay on this guy's doorstep quite yet. Now, if like the next three things all bite, and he's the chief, creative guy at that point with stuff that he has had direct input on, feel free. I'll be the first to kick him when he's down, because why not? He's down. He's close to your foot. But right now, I don't think so. I mean, what do you think so?
My whole thing with this article is, and I know it's not necessarily the writer's fault here, because they're reacting to the feedback from the community, but I don't understand why we get so obsessed with the idea of who to blame with this stuff. I mean,
clicks, baby. Clicks.
I know at the end of the day, and we've talked about this, I am going to be supportive if they go and take chances and try to take this franchise in directions that are new, different, and exploratory. And to quote the great Kenan Thompson from one of the SNL sketches he was in, they all can't be winners. So, they can't be. They can't be. So when you have an Acolyte, when you have, a Rise of Skywalker, when you have, even in Mando, I mean, we've talked about this. Mando season 3, little uneven.
Yeah.
All right. Little uneven. And that was on his watch. I don't blame Kathleen Kennedy for that. And I've had conversations with my kids about this too, because my younger son, I think, spends some time on Reddit and maybe on some other things, but he's just like, he'll bring up, Kathleen Kennedy as being like, the problem. And I think he's parroting a lot of what he's reading. But this obsession with like blaming her for everything. Yes, she's in an executive role. She makes decisions, but I can't fault a company for trying to do things different. I mean, we'd be pissing and moaning if it was, the Skywalker saga episode 15.
Yes.
And then they go to try to do something different, and they piss and moan. You know, we've talked about this ad nauseum.
Yes, we have.
And so for me, I think this is kind of a nothing burger. You know, I don't really care about blame. I want them to explore the palette of where they can take this, and I want them to be creative. I want them to do different things. As much as the Acolyte didn't resonate with the audience, I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed elements of it. It wasn't perfect storytelling. We had a whole episode that adjudicated that season and that series, and we talked about, you know, the fairness or unfairness of it being canceled. But you know, they're not all going to be winners, and so at the end of the day, I'm on the side of let's elevate the brand. Let's try different things. Let's try to go beyond the Skywalker saga. Everything that we're like super comfortable with and want to hold on to. I think there's another article that we never covered in that episode, in the Week in Geek episode we did, that talked about, or no, maybe we did talk about that when there was the Last Jedi article, I think, or I don't know, maybe we ran out of time and didn't do it. But there was an article about Luke Skywalker, and I agree with the thesis of the article where it's talking about the fans that are the most upset about Last Jedi are probably the ones that have associated themselves with Luke Skywalker and want to see an end, like because they've associated with him as the hero and where the hero should go.
Yeah.
That's what makes them upset.
Yeah.
Oh, we did talk about it. Okay.
I think we did. Although, I mean, it could have just been a bourbon infused fever.
At that point, we had a few. You know what I mean? Let's call a spade there. But nonetheless, that's where I'm at with it. I don't think there's anything constructive that comes out of blame. You know, if they get on a tear where the content is consistently poor and of low quality, then yeah, some heads need to roll and something new needs to be injected into it to try to bring it back to a quality that is universally kind of accepted. But let's, you know, I think Filoni has a plan. I'm excited to see where he's going to, you know, he clearly is a student of the game and is looking to inject the Thrawn, you know, trilogy into the live action universe in some way, shape, or form. Not going to be exactly like the books, but I'm okay with that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to do it. I'm looking forward to the Mando and Grogu, movie that's coming out and how that's going to move the story forward. And it's going to be different. Who knows? Like that's the whole thing. It's like, let them play with the palette of colors and shapes and topics and things that they're wanting to explore, and let's see what happens with it, and let's stop being negative. You know,
I think the thing that you nailed it. I think the fact that they are doing things differently. If they were just repeating the same stuff, then okay, then they're creatively bankrupt and all that. But they have been trying new things, and okay, the Acolyte didn't work, and I'm on record as saying I don't think it worked. I don't think they went far enough with it. Yada yada yada. But it was different,
right?
It was an attempt, and like you say, they can't all be winners. They can't all be Mando season 1, and even Kenobi, like same sort of thing. Like, so at least they're trying different things. I'll give them credit for that, and that's why I would agree. I think the reason I was saying in terms of assigning blame is just like from a sheer mechanical standpoint.
Sure.
Like that's, if you're going to look, there it is.
Well, but I think that stops with someone, right? At some point, and I get that.
But I think you're totally right in saying like it's not about that. That's like the least interesting part of this. It's much more interesting to discuss like what they're actually doing rather than, oh my gosh, that sucked. Who's to blame? Who can we like go out and stone first for this? It's like, but because the other thing is like we're well on record with this. You're never going to please even a majority of Star Wars fans. Like rarely does that happen because there's always someone who's upset about something.
Right.
So I'm with you. I'm glad they're trying different things. I'm on board to at least give this stuff a try. And until it really sinks to a level of like everything is the Acolyte, I'll still keep watching because at the same time it's a fun thing to watch. You know, I'm not looking for every movie and every episode of every TV show that I take into my life to change my life. Sometimes it's good enough to just like, that was a fun way to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours. All right, now I'm going to move on with my life, and I'll probably forget that movie. Whatever.
And it's kind of a smaller example. Like I've brought up, you know, I'm a big fan of, and I don't play it as much as I used to during the pandemic, but I play Star Wars: The Old Republic, and you know, kind of the core storylines that they kind of came up with. Like there's 8 different character classes that you can be, 4 on the light side, you know, 4 on the rebellion or the Republic, 4 on the Imperial. And I've done, I think, 2 or 3 of them. And the stories they tell just in that video game, I really enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
And no one really knows them because it's just a video game and you have to be, it's a niche, you know, you have to kind of be into playing, you know, something that's kind of pre, you know, the Star Wars trilogy. But it showed me and demonstrated to me that there are creative people that can come up with compelling stories for, you know, lesser known characters that help you kind of explore that universe a bit more. And and it's fun. And it's exciting to go through that. And, you know, I'm reading a lot of stuff about the Star Wars Outlaws game, which was, you know, bandied about as this, you know, big open world, you know, Star Wars game that I think came out in August, has been somewhat panned. But I don't know that the panning is justified. You know what I mean? I haven't played the game myself yet. It's a game I do want to get at some point. But if I had to guess, if I were to jump into that game, I think I would have a lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't, you know, try to measure it up against, you know, the gold standard of what everyone thinks a video, you know, an open world video game needs to be, you know, and maybe there are some disappointments. I'm not trying to say the criticism isn't unwarranted, but it's just like, you know, the amount of creativity that's being expended and the effort that's expended to create the richness of this galaxy in this fictional world that George Lucas created is amazing to me. And it's something that continues to spawn more and more stories.
Yeah. Ultimately it's the Ratatouille argument, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the almost the flimsiest, sort of weakest creative endeavor is still more worthy than the most, you know, finely written criticism.
Yep.
Because at least there was some chance taken.
Right.
Now if it's redundant, I mean, we can have that argument, but if you're taking a chance and you're really trying to put something out there and really put yourself out on a limb, yeah, that's much more worthy than, you know, Noob Slayer 69 on some message board talking about
what was the one from Endgame is like Noob. Oh, I think it was Noob Master 69 or something like
I know. I totally lifted that as I'm speaking about originality, but yeah, it's like,
yeah, it's
much more worthy. So yeah, I agree.
Excellent. All right, now that we've adjudicated that, so in the end, Free Range Idiocy says Dave Filoni is not to blame. Get off your high horse, everyone. And enjoy it. Thank you, Shaky. We needed that. All right, next one is, we'll be real quick on this one. This was kind of a funny anecdote from, we talked about last episode, the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix. And this article from Fightful.com, purveyors of all combat sport and fighting stuff, I guess.
I love that fighting stuff.
Well, you know, I didn't have prepared remarks, and so I'm just kind of winging it here.
That might be in their subheader. I don't know.
Could be. But Bill Simmons and Dave Shoemaker, both who were involved in the making of this documentary. Bill Simmons, for those who don't know, writer from back in the late 90s, early 2000s, as the internet was becoming a thing. This man wrote some just had some must-read writing on ESPN Page 2 and created an entire kind of media empire out of it with The Ringer. But both of them were talking on his podcast about basically some of the footage that was cut from this documentary. And interestingly enough, you know, Simmons is quoted in this article as on his podcast saying they had 4 hours of Vince's interview on the cutting room floor. Like basically the documentary easily could have been 10 parts, but we didn't want to do it that way. And then Shoemaker says we had 4 hours of Vince's interview on the cutting room floor because he sounded like a frog one day. He didn't have a voice. There was so much good material, but I think the story that Chris, I forget who the director was, Chris something or other. I don't have his name in front of me. And the team were able to tell is pretty amazing. So if you saw that documentary, Vince's voice, and you said it best too, with age, you know, the voice suffers, but you have to imagine all that yelling and screaming he's been doing over the years, and that you're fired. I mean, even now I'm just like, good God, my vocal cords. Probably showed up with some vocal fatigue and sounded like a frog apparently. So ribbit on that. What do you say, sir?
Way to put a little button on that. I don't even want to answer after that. That was perfect.
Okay, you want to move on?
Yeah, no, I've got nothing to add to that. I got nothing to tops that.
I got nothing.
Onward and upward.
All right, next article. Uncle Todd, so say we all. Next article from cinemablend.com. All things.
You're going with the heavy hitters. You got them back in your portfolio here. It's no more, Murph's Multiverse and Tim's Tiddlywinks. And
that's coming next episode.
Oh, okay.
Wait till the next episode. All right. This one from the WandaVision creator weighing in on, and we talked about this a little bit, I think, during the Week in Geek episode a couple episodes ago about, kind of the pivot that happened with Scarlet Witch, where WandaVision kind of, made her more of a sympathetic character in terms of the grief and loss that she was processing. And then to go to Doctor Strange 2, where she becomes much more aggressive and in a lot of ways murderous. And so basically the creator of WandaVision, Jacques Schaefer, was quoted as saying, I love Wanda. I love all the characters that I've had the privilege of working with. I guess he's done stuff with Black Widow and with Captain Marvel. But he's like, one of the agreements of being part of the MCU is you're kind of borrowing the characters and storylines for a time. You get your experience with them, and then things continue, which is one of the wonderful special things about the MCU. A lot of my friends and colleagues, were on that film. And I think what he's saying is, in some ways, not saying the MCU is like a library.
He's saying, don't blame me,
little snug. What I think he's saying though is like in some ways like a library, right? You're kind of checking some of these characters out for a period of time, and you're doing something with them, and then you check them back in, and someone else picks them up, and they go and do a story with them as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. And he goes on later in the article talking about how in Doctor Strange 2, like the reason he kind of accepts where they took Wanda was, look, she had the Darkhold, and the Darkhold is a corruptive entity that caused her to move away from, being more of a stable mind to a more volatile mind, and where she felt like she had to go do all of this stuff and really turn evil in order to attain the outcome of trying to form somewhat of a family. Like she never really kind of let that go from WandaVision. And that's true. Like when you see the post credits of WandaVision, she's in the Darkhold and she hears the voices of her boys. And so I think with this article, it was just interesting to hear the creator kind of put it like that, where, and it does make sense. It's like you have different creative people come into the MCU and they do different things with these characters, and you have to be okay with it as long as they give a, continuity, consistent sort of explanation for it. And I think he's right. I mean, she was corrupted by something that she possessed that maybe she shouldn't have possessed. It made her powerful, but it corrupted her. And you get what you get in Doctor Strange too. But I don't know, your thoughts, sir, on this.
I mean, it's a very comic sort of way of putting that, because that is the way that comic books work. Like you have these different writers, artists who have runs on a book, and sometimes it'll literally be like that particular book only goes for that many issues, and then when that person's done, that's it. And then eventually maybe they'll revive the character and it'll be a totally new thing. Like that, it's a little tough to understand, because you don't, I mean, I guess it's a little easier to understand now with the way that some movie franchises have been treated. Like, we have Suicide Squad, then we have The Suicide Squad, and things like that. But I mean, you have these comic books that'll just like stop. So when you're talking about like X-Men, yeah, there was X-Men, and then you had Uncanny X-Men, and then you have this and you have that. It's like there are all these different things that, even though it's the same characters, they are completely divergent. It is the multiverse, just in printed form. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, you get to play with these characters for a certain time. You get to do it. And they talk about, like Frank Miller's run on Batman, just revolution brought, the Dark Knight sort of thing and all that. It's like, yes, but that wasn't all that Batman ever was forever and ever. Amen. Then Batman changed after that, and Batman was different before that. And the same with different writers for Spider-Man or the Fantastic Four or Iron Man or whoever. Pick your book. Like they've all had different artists and different writers and people contributing to it. So it's a great way to put it because it is very similar. Ultimately, like the management is the one that has it. In this case, it's Feige. So he's the only one who can kind of like lend any continuity. And if he decides like, well, we're going this direction, even if you feel like, oh my gosh, this compromises my creative direction that I had in this one segment of the MCU I contributed to, tough luck, man. It ain't yours. It ain't your ball. You got to play with the ball for a little while, and then it's somebody else's ball, and now they can do whatever they want with it.
Yep.
So I can see where that might be frustrating, and I can see where that it can be even frustrating for the actors or directors or writers who are all in this thing, because then they're like, well, it's not my creative vision. It's like, well, dude, it ain't you didn't create the thing in the first place.
Yeah.
This is part of the agreement. And if you can work with that agreement, then that's great. And I can understand where everybody might want out after a while.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I'd like to do something different. Thank you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's the nature of the beast, and it totally makes sense.
Indeed.
And it does make sense the direction they went with Wanda, like it or not. It does make story sense.
Yep.
Maybe it wasn't executed the best way it could be, or to everyone's liking, but it does figure.
Right. And of course, you don't want to see your heroes or different heroes go sour or go evil, but I think that's what makes the MCU interesting, is that they open it up to allow their heroes to be human, and to explore the humanity behind these godlike beings. I think a great example of that is Thor in Endgame, where he lets himself go and he becomes, he's riddled with guilt. And so he's just completely, physically let himself go, to the point where, he needs to seek out, almost like his mother's encouragement, even though it's in the past, to remember who he is and then, kind of build himself back up. So, overall, I agree. And then the last article we have, this is kind of a follow-up to our episode on the Acolyte several weeks ago. I kind of titled this one, well, the Acolyte's costs were much worse than originally thought and quite suspect.
Oh, boy. Lay it on me, Chucky. What do we got here?
Well, according to arstechnica.com, purveyors of all tech and NICA, apparently the Star Wars spinoff costs topped $230.1 million halfway through post-production.
That's a hell of a rounding error.
We had talked about the costs being $180 million when we talked about the season several episodes ago. And this article just pointing out that,
and that was halfway through post.
That was only halfway through post.
So there's more.
Yes.
It would be easy for that to get to 250, depending on, because you're dealing with effects.
Yep.
Whatever.
So unfortunately this, and I don't want to go into, as we just talked about, I don't want to get into blame and who's to blame, whether it's the director or whoever else. But the fact of the matter is, this thing ran costs way beyond what the product appeared as on screen. And if you said to me this was, let's say, $250 million to make this series, I would have been like, you got to be kidding me. Like, there was very little in the way of space battles or any sort of intricate sort of space scenes. A lot of stuff seemed to be more kind of planet based. Where did the money go? You know what I mean? Like that's my thing, is where did the money go? Because this did not feel like something that needed a lot of special effects.
And the weird thing there is, because I'm not as well versed in the director, showrunner or whoever was running the show on that, which would be the showrunner. I don't know what sort of cachet they have, but that's a lot of money to overrun. Like, I can't imagine that you can just just charge it to the corporate card. Like, I don't know that you could do that unless it was literally like, yeah, and Christopher Nolan wants to come in and make a Star Wars show. And in which case you're like, Mr. Nolan, here's a stack of checks. They're blank.
Yeah.
Just get us some receipts when you can, please. That'd be great.
Yep.
Whatever you'd like to do is okie dokie with us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the people running the show were at that point. So obviously, I'm guessing one poured. Maybe this was like a real Kathy Kennedy, like or Dave Filoni. Then again, Dave Filoni is. I feel like he's taking over kind of midstream in this.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe one, it's a Kathy Kennedy passion project. Like she really shined to this, and she's like, yeah, just all the money and make it happen. This is going to be the new avenue because we're going to fill in this way, way, way back area where we don't have to worry about as much continuity. Do it.
Yeah.
Or maybe Dave Filoni comes on board, midway through this, 3/4 of the way through this, and it's like, no, we got to change all this. And that's why your post-production costs go up. And because it's Dave Filoni, then you start cutting a bunch of checks. Maybe that's the case. Or maybe maybe the accounting is that piss poor in Lucasfilm, and like maybe I've been wrong this entire time when I was talking about like The Last Jedi and all the times like, JJ and Kathy were like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? And I was like, no, they signed off on it. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it's that poorly run. I find it hard to believe. Yeah. Especially under the Disney umbrella where they are so much about controlling the experience. Yeah. I find it hard to believe, but I mean, look at the world around us, ladies and gentlemen. Weird stuff is happening everywhere. So maybe I'm completely off base and no one's in control. Good night and good luck, I guess. I don't know. I tend to think it's one or two. Like there was a lot to be fixed, and wow, that is a big ass number.
Yeah,
that is a big ass number for not a lot. Because, like you say, like it is not on the screen.
No, it's not. I mean, even when you look at like Coruscant and the High Republic and stuff, there's not a. And again, I'm not sitting here as a. Like you said, like I'm not a professional when it comes to the special effects, so maybe I'm understating some of this. But from what I saw, it just didn't strike me as needing to cost that much money. I would imagine, some of the space battles that we see, some of what we saw like in Ahsoka with the space whales and with, all the hyperspace stuff they were doing between the two galaxies. I could see there being, some major costs there. And yet Ahsoka was, I think, probably on the lower end of the spectrum.
It was one of the lower, it was definitely, it was way under Andor.
Yeah.
I believe.
So but
the
was
thing is like
an element of mismanagement here, unfortunately. And,
yeah.
And I don't know enough to say who's to blame for it, but unfortunately the product doesn't reflect the cost in my mind.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think you necessarily have, I'm not talking about an actually objective, like, oh, and I could tell like, because this would seem to take this many hours and this many, effects artists and all that. I'm not talking about like an actual hard accounting there. I'm talking about like, there is that thing of like, this looks like, and I think that can be kind of a subjective measure where you don't have to know all that stuff. Like you just see something, you're like, wow, that looks like $1 million, even though it's like, no, we did that with 10 grand on an iPhone and a MacBook Pro. Oh, okay. But it still looks expensive. It looks like it's the detail and all that and the lighting and all that. That was not the feel. It did not feel big. It did not. So, I mean, it feels like that's nickeling and diming and redoing things several times to get someone happy.
Yeah.
And not even just going to like, it's, oh, well, we're going to previs this. Like, no, we're going all the way finished. And then somebody else comes in. They're like, not quite what I was thinking about. All right, we'll go back to scratch. But that's going to be another $3 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's baffling to overrun that much.
It is.
With that. Wow.
It is. Yeah. So, unfortunately, we understand why it got canceled.
Oh, yeah.
Jabroni!
And that, my friends, is your Week in Geek.
You are worse than Hulk Hogan.
All right, before we dive into our the meat of the episode, I'm going to have to call myself a 30-second timeout.
One eternity later.
All right, and we're back, and now we're going to talk about Bad Blood with only, well, technically, I guess 2 Ds, but it's instead of 3. First match right out at the gate, we went right hell-bent for leather. I didn't catch any of the intro promo packages or anything like that. I actually I got to this when I think McIntyre had already made his entrance into the ring, so he was already in the ring, and then Punk came in.
Could I jump in with a little context?
Yes, sir, please.
So the week, so for the prior week leading up to the event, cage side seats, I got to give them credit for this because, of course, I have zero contact into the inside workings of WWE.
What?
But they were reporting that there was a bit of a dispute going on of whether this match or the Roman Cody Bloodline match would be the main event.
Yeah.
And understandably so, because you have, on the one hand, one of probably the hottest feuds that we've seen in a long time. And I'm not trying to overstate it. I don't think there's been a feud quite like Punk and McIntyre in a long time. I mean,
yeah, you're
where you
correct.
feel the visceral hatred between the two. And these are characters, keep in mind.
Yes.
I don't know if in reality they hate each other. Maybe they do. But the fact that they can translate that on screen, and it's been consistently a well-told story going all the way back to January. So we're talking about like a 10-month build here.
Mm-hmm.
I could see trying to make that the main event. But I also can understand having Roman Cody and the Bloodline as the main event as well, because that is where the title is. That is where there's a lot of drama and equally a long-term story going on between all the principals involved in that.
And a longer-term story.
Yes, a longer-term story.
They have tenure, you might say, seniority. You might say.
Indeed.
And
so,
not to mention, then I honestly, even with all that, I think the determining factor is the little surprise we got after.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And I think that there was probably a little bit of politicking involved there.
I feel like the way they went ahead, and this is something that you and I talked about in the pre-production meeting around the structure of the event, made a lot of sense. And you and I were texting each other feverishly during this match. Yeah. But one of the things we both agreed on was, especially when we got to the Roman Cody match, was what a wise decision, to be made to have Punk and McIntyre first
to bookend, yes,
and create distance between that and the Cody Roman Bloodline match. Because honest to God, even if that came as the whatever you would call it, the pre-main event match, no matter how good the story was for Cody and Roman and Bloodline,
oh yeah, you get killed. Yeah, no,
they would have been killed. Like the crowd would have been dead because of all the emotion that Punk and McIntyre generated from that crowd. I mean, they were locked in to the action, and it was. Anyways, we'll get into the match in a moment, but I think having them go first was an extremely smart decision.
Yeah,
and really played into letting it kind of separate itself from the rest of the event.
Yeah, it's very dangerous to basically have what is a potential Savage Steamboat match go on first, because if you don't have Andre Hogan,
right,
if you don't show up and you don't have that caliber of intensity for that match, whoo, doggy, you in some trouble,
if you will.
So yeah, we got and I thought this is great. The way that they just started this out, and throughout the night, one of the things I appreciated was the fact that they really went into like on all the luminaries, as they said from the first Rocky movie, all of the luminaries from stage and screen and the boxing world at ringside. So we had Goldberg and Killer Mike from Run the Jewels at ringside showing off for the first match, and then every other match they had somebody else. And they had
DDP, they had Arn Anderson, they had Tully Blanchard.
Oh my gosh, that the sweet part was lame until you saw like some of the folks who were there. Oh no, because Arn wasn't. No, it was Arn and Tully were at ringside. DDP was in the suite. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. No, having Tully and Arn there was great, and having a Brainbusters drop was great. From Graves.
One thing I was very happy to hear from the crowd
Yeah.
was, and there was one other person they introduced with Tully and Arn. I forget who it was.
Oh gosh, I can't remember who it was now.
But when Arn stands up,
oh god, the pop for him,
dude.
And for Tully too. I mean, don't Tully got some flowers too, but Arn,
Tully got flowers, but Arn was like, I mean,
they were
there's a lot of
babies
love for
at him, like, take my child.
There's a lot of love for the enforcer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing is, you look at him and he's like, he don't look that much different.
He doesn't.
Like, he's a little puffier because that's what happens.
And
but
if he stares a hole in you, it's one of those things where you're like probably going to pee your pants because he looks like he wants to whoop you, even though
the thing is,
he has
like,
no use of his left arm, basically.
I tried to describe it to my wife because I was like, he looks like the shop teacher from your high school. And yet you just don't understand that this is like one of the most feared guys in the ring.
Right.
But it's like what I think Bruce Pritchard talked about with like Gorilla Monsoon, like in his last days, where he was like, I still would have no doubt that if Gorilla could have gotten a hold of me, there's no doubt that he could have done whatever he wanted to do. Like he was just that big of a guy. Same with Arn. Like Arn might not be able to catch you.
Yeah.
If Arn gets his hands on you though, it's all done.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that Arn could still whoop your ass. I mean, you can run away from him now. I mean, then again, I don't think he could ever really run that fast. But I mean, if Arn gets his hands on you now, like he's still going to stretch your ass.
Oh, hell's yeah.
But I love that he got a good pop. That was great.
Oh yeah.
I thought that Michael Cole and Corey Graves did a great job, kind of going into all of the history surrounding these two. Going into all of that was and bringing up like the Battle of Atlanta and they then again that kind of got old because they mentioned that like 4 or 5 times, I think. I gotta say, I felt like the Bad Blood graphics were pretty damn cool, like especially on the ring aprons. I thought it was very it was very kind of Deadpoolish in the font choice. I dug that. Starting this thing out, dude, everything looks stiff. Everything.
Yeah.
It was insane just how hard these two were laying it into each other, because I think there, in a way, it might have had a little bit of a Savage Steamboat undercurrent of like, yeah, we're gonna steal the show. Yeah, we're gonna steal the show. This should have been the main event, because Punk is already there. Punk thinks he should be the main event of every show he's ever been on.
Well,
so I think that's a possibility.
Just to mention this though, too. I mean, when I don't know if you realize this, but the runtime of the match was somewhere in the range of 45 to 50 minutes.
Yeah,
like they gave this match an hour basically.
As well they should have,
and rightfully so. And thankfully,
lots of space.
Oh my God, yeah, like. The pacing, and I mentioned this about when we watched. What was the last event we watched? Was it SummerSlam? I think.
Well, no. SummerSlam was August.
Or Bash in Berlin recently?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The pacing of these events, and I can't. I got to go back and look at what the cards looked like back when I was watching in like the late 80s, early 90s. But there's something about the way they're pacing these matches that feels in a way old school, in the fact that it's.
I don't think they're old school in terms of WWE though.
No. But I'm saying they're giving space for these matches to breathe. They're letting them play out in a longer format than we're used to seeing, and it is doing wonders for the storytelling that is going on in these matches. Yeah, I see. And I'm disappointed because I want there to be one time where she comes in and scares the bejesus out of you.
Yeah, well, not tonight.
Damn it. Nana.
Nice call. And how are we doing? It can't be that bad. You had like art to do. You love art. You're good at art. You're taking an advanced placement art class.
Comedy corner. Does she not come prepared with some comedy?
On to me.
I'm sorry, what?
You're just ranting about me to Tim to this point.
No, I'm ranting to the audience as well, all like 3 of our listeners. So what do we got for Kaylin's Comedy Corner?
I'm one of those listeners.
You actually listen to our podcast? Oh, boy.
Thank you.
We got to clean this up.
Kaylin rules.
Don't worry, I've heard worse stuff.
Kaylin rules.
Mostly from her mom. Hey. You know and I know. Anyways, what do we got for this episode? What do you got? What's on your mind?
I wrote something absolutely heartbreaking. I'm gonna be
drama
breaking people's hearts.
Oh, jeez! Wow.
Don't go breaking my heart.
Don't go breaking my heart.
No.
Not an Elton John fan, huh? All right. Well, then, so what do you want to share with the world?
I'm waiting.
That's the plant over there. Well,
What'd you name the plant?
Let's get the
That's
old
Paul.
Billy Baru.
Oh, Billy. It's a big one, Billy.
I don't know.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, that was Kaylin's Comedy Corner.
Wait a minute. That's my sticker.
You've been let it sit in my office for the past 3 months. It's already on there now.
No, I had that in my room.
No, you didn't. It was in here.
I just love no matter what time of year it is, she's wrapped in blankets.
I've got 2 conversations going on right now.
How dare you?
How dare I? It was sitting right over there. I'm not discussing this right now on the podcast. We will discuss this later. You're shaking the
Family
computer.
drama.
My goodness, all this about a sticker. All
Wow.
right. Do you have any? Well, I'll buy you another sticker. I'll get you one of the stickers that Tim was going to put on his scooter. How about that?
Thank you.
It's puffy and it's got the googly eyes.
Tell about the 300 miles.
Yeah, Tim wants me to make sure that I tell you that he made 300 miles on his scooter.
Oh, that's adorable.
Thank you. It is adorable and wonderful.
You shouldn't be taking that as a compliment.
Well,
sir.
I'm taking it as a compliment nonetheless.
You're a sad, sad man. Anyways, so nothing to contribute to the show?
Well, I think I just contributed a bit of comedy.
You did, actually. That was
was
actually
good.
delightful. Thank
That
you
was
so
good.
much. All right. Are you going to bed?
Yeah.
All right.
Tell her she needs one more blanket because I don't think she's warm enough.
Tim says that you need one more blanket.
I really do because this man won't put the damn heat on.
I'm glad I poked that pressure point.
Not
for
even
Uncle Tom.
mid-October yet.
I have to wear mittens while doing homework.
Builds character.
She doesn't understand there's a game of chicken afoot in October.
It is. Just on the main subreddit, I saw someone posted. They said, my wife turned on the heat the other day. Can our marriage be saved? All right. Well, good night.
Who can make it to November 1st?
Freeze.
You'll be fine. Put on another blanket.
I have enough as it is to drown me in my sorrows.
Wow. That is very poetic.
That doesn't really make sense, but okay. You'll be fine.
Suffocate myself until I die.
No, it's a whole 54 degrees
Now
out
we're
right
going
now.
dark on this one. Look out.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. You said you did what? You left your window open? What?
Hey, tell her I was riding.
Accidentally? Was that what you said?
I was riding 20 miles an hour on a scooter in 43-degree weather.
Tim was driving. How fast?
20 miles an hour.
20 miles an hour, and it was 43 degrees. It was uphill both ways, and the snow was flying in his eyes.
And I liked it.
And he liked it.
I bet that's real majestic. That's probably as fast as the scooter goes.
It is, actually.
It is,
that is
actually.
the maximum speed.
Yeah,
20
his
miles.
hair was flowing in the breeze.
It was. All 3 strands.
Well, I was thinking more of the nose hair.
Oh, thank you.
He looks like a party favor. All right. Good night. Love you. Sweet dreams. Do not stay up until midnight reading.
Tell her I have a Star Wars joke next time.
Yeah, and Tim says have a Star Wars joke next time.
I'm trying to find them. I don't know, who do you follow
Hey,
on Instagram?
you know what? Direct the hate at him. I'm just happy you came in and said goodnight.
I just love I'm stirring the pot here on this.
I didn't even hear what you said because Tim was talking. I had my headphones on.
You still owe me a damn sticker.
I still owe her a damn sticker. Okay.
Not a sticker, a damn sticker.
I'm gonna get a sticker from the Hoover Dam. That'll be funny. Okay.
Oh, dear Lord.
Anywho, where were we? Oh, Hell in a Cell.
Yes.
The one note I had here that I thought was great was when they went under the ring and they pulled the toolbox out. I just had to note, I'm like, who the hell leaves a toolbox under the ring?
Hey, they got to build the ring somehow.
And yes, I thought the innovative use of the table where Punk basically just throws McIntyre back onto the table, but like the underside of the table where all the like metal framing is, and repeatedly doing that, I was like, that I have not seen before. That's kind of cool.
Yep. Or the fact that McIntyre was breaking pieces off the table and using them as weapons.
That was cool too. And then Punk trying to push Drew's eye into the table leg. I was like, okay, damn, we're going serious with this one.
Oh, hells yeah. This is like one of the things I was reading leading into the event was, Punk did, I think, a couple interviews where he was talking about how he wanted to bring I forget how he put it. It's like a seriousness or a viciousness to this match. And I understand what he's saying, because for a while, WWE built an entire pay-per-view around Hell in a Cell where the angles being worked at the time didn't really justify using the cell structure.
Yep.
There wasn't the and Triple H talked about this in the press conference afterwards, which I don't know if you had a chance to check out, but I
watched a bit of it, yes.
But I really appreciate how he framed it, because he's like, these two guys brought that match format back to its original purpose, which was when there's nothing left to do match wise, and you need to just put it into this structure and settle the beef one way or another. And the way that they did it, and I mean, like, I know people are going to say this is weird to say, but that was art what we saw. Punk and McIntyre was, in a lot of ways, wrestling as an art form. And the way, and it can't just be localized to just this match. It's everything that led up to this match.
Yep. Yeah. And
going back to SummerSlam, going to Bash in Berlin with the strap match.
Go to WrestleMania.
WrestleMania. Going back to January. I mean, McIntyre was like next level with the trolling he was doing on Punk when Punk was out and couldn't do anything. And everything that just led into this has just been right on the money. So as I was sitting there eating my flank steak and watching this match, because,
carnage and cholesterol,
the man they call Tim has got to have the meats while he's watching, some wrestling.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is the stuff that gets me excited about wrestling is the way they do the storytelling in the matches. I was a huge Bret Hart fan back in the day. And Bret Hart's matches when he was world champion told a story.
Yes.
And I love seeing matches like this. And quite honestly, when we get to the main event, that is also telling a story, just a different one. But this, like what we saw with Punk and McIntyre, is one of the reasons why I absolutely love CM Punk as a wrestling talent, because you can see the appreciation he has for the business and for the art of wrestling.
Yes.
Because he's trying to bring, I think, a lot of elements from the past forward in a different form.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain this to my parents last night, because, my dad and I used to watch wrestling together, and I was telling him we were watching this together. And so he's asking me some questions about it. It's like, what was, like, what'd you guys like? And I was explaining to him this match, and I'm like, and the only thing I could say is like, Dad, do you remember in the early 80s when they do cage matches and how brutal they were? He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, they did that. Like, they somehow brought that brutality into the 21st century and told a compelling story. And it wasn't just because of the match. I said it was everything leading up to the match.
Yeah.
And then what they did meant that much more because of all of that story that led into it.
Well, and then the pacing of the match itself, it becomes like that. The thing that we talked about so much in talking about BSG, those character moments of being willing to take out like action, things that are exciting and oh my gosh, spectacle. No, we're gonna sacrifice some of that to hang on this moment here with this character for an extra couple seconds, because it's going to inform how you feel about the character, and the character is much more important.
Yep.
It's the same sort of thing in a match like this where, they gave it almost an hour so that it didn't have to be spot.
Yep.
There's breathing room in between them. There's expression. There's moments for the crowd to understand, like, oh my gosh, what the hell? Like, what's going on? And for them to each sell significantly, because that is one of the most frustrating things. And God, I'm going to turn into friggin' Uncle Corny here. But the idea that everything is so devastating and yet immediately kick out, and then they're back up and they're getting their stuff in, and it's like they're not even selling the effects of what just happened. And when when they just got power bombed on a cinder block, for instance, to grab an AEW reference, it's just, oh well, everything is fine now. Like, no, like this progressively showed these two guys just getting the hell beat out of each other, and in many ways legit, because guess what, folks? I don't know if you know this. There's not really a technical manual on how to hit somebody in the head with a toolbox to make it believable. And throwing yourself, that's not a rubber table. Like, you do it as best you can, but it's not gonna tickle. So just the fact that they're allowing all that to breathe, it actually, rather than being like, oh well, it's going to get so boring. No, it doesn't get boring, because if you're doing it right, it actually heightens the drama, because now you as a viewer have time to process, like, holy crap, that must have hurt.
Yeah.
And then as you have a few more seconds to, like, how the hell, like, oh my gosh, like that had to have hurt, like legit had to have hurt. Didn't look like it hurt. It had to have hurt. And again, you have that extra time, and it just it adds so much to the match. Oh my goodness.
I mean, Monday or like either yesterday or today, there were pictures of Drew McIntyre getting 16 staples in his head. And honestly, like, there's an element of it's hard for me to tell when the blood is real versus are they using some Hollywood makeup sort of stuff, because
I don't think either of these guys are doing any kind of fake blood.
I don't know. Punk looked kind of clean toward the end of the match, which I'm like, look, if you're bleeding, that's going to continue to persist. And the one where it persisted was McIntyre.
Yeah, although Punk did seem like it. I mean, there is like it does start clotting at a certain point.
Yeah,
McIntyre was ridiculous.
Oh my gosh,
it was gushing.
Oh my gosh,
and like was actually used to great effect, because at one point you can tell the ref is getting a buzz in his ear, like, dude, you got to do something to wipe some of the blood. We're gonna like, even on a PLE. This is getting out of hand, and had a towel, and he wiped both of their faces at one point, and then he went to do it again to McIntyre, and McIntyre smacked him away.
Yeah.
Which got a cheer from the crowd. I'm like, that was such a little moment, but then they were able to do it later, but that moment was like sold just how important it was.
Yeah. I love what they did early on with the wrench too. Like, they were both kind of trying to gouge each other with it, and to your point, it kind of helped underscore the hatred of these two characters. I even though it didn't generate blood or anything like that, it was the fact they were trying to maim each other.
Well, and it works so much better because you can work that a lot better. Like when they were trying to use the wrench, or McIntyre used the wrench a couple times to break a hold.
Yep.
You can tell he's not really walloping with the wrench as hard as he goes.
Oh, sure.
If you're legit trying to do that in real life, you're going to hit the person in the face. Like he had an open shot at the dude's head.
Yep.
You're going to hit him with the wrench in the face. And you can tell he kind of lightly smacked him on the back. Like it doesn't sell as it doesn't, you can't work that as well.
Right.
The gouging works total because you can't, unless the camera's right there, it has, the effect is better.
Right.
Yeah, no, that was great. And actually, I thought when McIntyre like lawn darted Punk into the cage, the fact that they had the camera in such a great place to catch that head on instead of like from the side, which you normally do from inside the cage.
Yep.
Obviously, they knew that spot was coming.
Yeah.
But having and that's one of the other things I think that has really changed in their production is the camera angles.
Mm-hmm.
Like it seems like they are just much more open to having different angles and different ways of presenting.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, okay, here's our 5 set angles
that
we're always going to use. Like that was, to me, was so much because it heightened the impact.
Yeah.
just coming, like he was coming right friggin' at you, and I'm like, holy crap,
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that before.
Right.
I thought the one thing that was kind of funny was when they were peeling back and they're pulling stuff out from under the ring, you could see the TV monitor under there and a box of a tray of waters. I'm like, okay, either someone's under the ring or someone's gonna be under the ring. Which I'm like, unless that's coming out like in this match, like why wouldn't you have if you know someone's going to be going for the plunder under the ring, like dude, have the monitor off.
Yeah.
Because it's a give, and you could see it multiple times. Because I saw it once, and I'm like, did I just see? And then again, and I'm like, I did see. And then a third time, like I definitely saw.
Yeah.
I thought go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I love the ebb and flow of the match. That you had Punk getting the upper hand early on, then you had McIntyre controlling things for much of the match, and then when we had the toolbox shot to the head, that's when it started to kind of go back and forth a little bit. Punk had some moments where he had the edge, then McIntyre came back.
Lots of counters, which I thought was kind of interesting, especially out of the GTS.
Absolutely. And then, one of the big things I texted Uncle Todd, there was a spot in the match where Punk was going to, they were both kind of draped over a turnbuckle outside of the ring. And Punk was going to try to do a suplex, and McIntyre reversed it. And, credit to him, 110%. Like, they're in tight quarters in that cell. And the way that he picked up, like at some point you can tell like something got messed up in the suplex, getting Punk up into the suplex position. McIntyre still kind of got him up, and you can see him look, and he just kind of adjusts, and then they just both go down on the table on the outside of the ring.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of room. That is tight quarters.
It's not even the room between the cage. I'm thinking about, like, even though Drew's a tall guy, like he's a much more enormous dude than what you really think. Like that's a big human being. Even so, reaching over that top turnbuckle. So I mean, it's like ring post.
Yep.
Here's the thing, and then the ropes go out this way. You're reaching over that, and he's reaching down, and he's got Punk. You can't really dip. Like you have to like literally pull that person up over that. Like there's no way to kind of cheat that. Right. That is difficult, especially when you factor in the fact that that's like halfway to 3/4 of the way through the match. You're tired.
Yeah.
You're beat up. And to do that spot, I was like, first of all, I don't know that I've seen anyone do a suplex over that area.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
And especially in a manner like that, then to go through a table and everything, I was like, yeah, no, kudos to Drew, and of course for Punk, because I mean Punk's helping him out on that, but I still think even as much as Punk can help him out on that, that's 2/3 to 3/4 all Drew, because he has to get him up there, and then he's the one in charge of making sure
he's air traffic control at that point.
Yeah.
So he's got to get everyone angled just right. And I say that because there's room for error where their feet can catch on the chain link fence. So I was kind of concerned at first when they were doing that spot, like, shoot, are we going to see like a screw up of some kind?
Yeah.
And watching McIntyre just masterfully just like guide, both himself and Punk onto the table the way that he did was just top notch. I mean, it didn't take away from the draw. Like you could tell he was doing it, but it didn't take away from the action.
No, not at all.
It felt like a natural part of the match where they both just went through the table, and then. And then as the match progresses, we get both of them, kicking out of each other's finishers. We see,
what I loved was, two things. So before the suplex over the turnbuckle, we had Punk putting on one of the worst sharpshooters ever.
Oh gosh!
I mean, he took the Rock off the hook for his crappy sharpshooter.
That if there was a low point of the match, that was it.
Yeah, and you could tell like part of that is like they're just both tired,
probably fatigued, right?
And also, I mean, I imagine it's got to be tougher with someone like Drew, who is Drew McIntyre's a friggin' physical specimen. That dude's got legs like a tree trunk, and trying to get someone like that who might not be as quite as flexible.
Yeah.
And then also like Punk, it's not like the sharpshooter is really in his everyday repertoire.
Yeah.
Doing that in the heat of the moment, if you will, has got to be tough.
Yeah.
But I also liked how Punk went to the chokehold. and how we got a couple of submission moves in there to kind of heighten that drama. I thought those are some really good choices.
Yes.
To add a little, like if you're having a chili and all of a sudden you decide you have a Moroccan chili, you're like, ooh, this is a totally different spice profile than what I'm used to. Like I wasn't expecting a sharpshooter, and I kind of wish I hadn't. But then getting a chokehold on him, like, oh wow, okay, this is interesting. No, those some different things in there that would kind of made it added a little bit of a wrinkle to what has already been a pretty excessive feud. Like to break out new wrinkles like the third or fourth match. No, this is the third match for them, right?
Yep.
That's kind of impressive.
This was the trilogy.
Yeah.
And then so we had like you mentioned, there was a sharpshooter. McIntyre nailed a couple claymores. Punk kicked out. We had Punk throw on the Anaconda Vice, which is I love that submission maneuver because he can slap it on kind of out of a number of different positions, and it
looks legit. Like
it looks very UFC like. Oh my god,
I don't ever want to do that. Thank you.
No. Well, the thing I love is not just he throws the move on, but he has the tongue out when he does. He's like, ah.
Oh yeah, he's
he's like an animal.
Phil's all in. I love it.
The ending of the match, God, I hate to say it this way, but goddamn the storytelling that they did here.
Yeah.
When you had Drew bring out the bag and you thought it was gonna be thumbtacks, and
I totally did.
These stupid beads from that bracelet that he had.
Yeah.
And then you have Punk. Well, actually, let me take a step back. There's one point where Punk wants to carry out what he talked about on Raw, which is Drew on his knees, asking for mercy from his God, like that whole sequence was really well done where, Drew got the upper hand by nailing him in the nads and, he falls over.
I'll kick you square in the nuts.
That's right. But then when Drew brings out the bag and you find out it's all these beads from that.
Which was kind of a nice swerve. I got to admit.
It absolutely was.
I got a good chuckle out of it.
Made sense in terms of the story. And more so when you saw it was Punk who was scooping them up, shoving them. I mean, especially when he was like wrapping the chain around his knee, like you knew what he was firing up for, right? He's looking for the knockout blow now. This is going to be a GTS with the chain. And not only does that, but he like scoops up some of the charms from the mat.
Yeah.
Shoves them in Drew's mouth, which the crowd was like popping like crazy for because they remember, what happened on Raw when McIntyre did it to Punk. And again, masterful storytelling. And then we get the GTS and the 1, 2, 3. And and before I go there, what'd you think of the Claymore that missed where Drew ended up on the frickin' stairs? I don't know how you protect yourself in that scenario. I mean, he took a freaking stairs to the spine.
It's like when Mick Foley would do his bump over the stairs, where you're like, there's no good way to take that. There's only the least bad way to take it.
Yes.
No, I saw that. And so then I saw a WrestleMania video, which, anyways, I have thoughts about WrestleMania. Good info, but definitely stretched. But, when they said something about Drew McIntyre legit injured, I'm like, that's got to totally be it. And then it was the staples. I was like, how in the hell does he not have like some sort of like fractured vertebrae from that?
Yeah.
Oh, that was gnarly looking, dude. Oh.
And for the audience, if you didn't see the event, what happened is at some point in the match, Drew takes not just the stairs, but the base of the stairs and puts it in the ring.
Well, he couldn't get it. He was trying to go over the top rope. He ended up having to slide it under the bottom.
He had to slide it in underneath. He goes to do his Claymore kick, which is when he throws his whole body forward with the kick. And Punk moves out of the way, and there's nowhere for Drew to land with his spine other than on the corner of that metal staircase. It looks pretty sick.
Yeah.
And then Punk, who has already wrapped a chain around his knee, puts him up, gives him the GTS with the charms in the mouth. So he's already, kind of gotten his comeuppance that way, gets the 1, 2, 3. The thing I loved about the end of the match was two things. One, Punk walking out of the cage and slamming the door behind him, because there was an edginess there around, that visceral hatred between the two of them. But then about midway down the aisle, he collapses, and they got to bring the medical team in to give him oxygen and all of that. And I texted you because I thought that was such a great detail that they kept in the match. And I'm hoping this was a work and not something real, because again, for all these guys, you want them to be healthy and safe and all that.
Yeah.
But if you think of it from a story perspective, it is brilliant, because
totally.
Even though he's the winner, he has taken a beating, and he's selling that beating from his opponent to the point where wherever McIntyre appears, whether it's on SmackDown or Raw, there's a part of me that thinks the crowd is going to cheer for him a little bit in some way, in some weird way.
Yeah.
Out of like almost like that Mick Foley respect, where it's like he gets the crap kicked out of him and he loses.
Yeah.
But he's respected because he's a tough man for taking that.
Yeah. And it also works. It also works well for Punk, because then I don't know if you've seen any clips from Raw.
Yes. Yeah.
The fact that he's like, I don't think I can even walk down to the ring and get in the ring, so I'm just going to address you here from the stage.
Well, you know why, part of why they did that, right?
Well, yeah. I also thought it was great. Like the pyro went off a little bit, and he's like, "Well, I've already been beaten up. If you're gonna light me on fire, now's a great time to do it," or something.
Well, it's
like, what a great little improv.
It's not just him selling, but what I read today was he has been pretty vocal about his feelings about Saudi Arabia and them holding an event there. And I think it makes sense to kind of pull him away from the stories for right now, because he does not, I think, agree with that.
Well, and the thing is, it's brilliant as well, even factoring that out. The fact that it humanizes him, and it really sells the fact, like, there's no hiding. Like, the dude's, he's letting the gray show.
Oh,
he's been around for a long time. It's like, and he already kind of laid into that idea of like, I have 0 Hell in a Cells match left.
Yeah.
And I am now going in debt in this. Yeah. And like, that makes sense to sell this, and it can help him with the whole, like, leading into a feud with Seth Rollins or whatever they're going to do next, to put him at the spot of like, man, I'm at a disadvantage, because who knows if I'm going to recover from this thing.
Yeah.
And again, that, to your point, that helps to sell Drew. Like, look at what this guy did to me.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting that after the initial pop, the crowd was real quiet.
Yeah.
Crowd got real quiet real soon, because I think there was a genuine concern of like, did Drew really hurt himself? Like, are these guys legit all right? Because it got to that point where you bought in. Like, even if you're smartened up to the business, and I think most fans at this point, like 95%, are smart enough to and when I say smart, I mean basically smartened up to the business. Like, it's a wrestling term. They're smartened up enough to what's going on that they understand, like, this is not legit. They're not really out there trying to kill each other, but a match like this will take you to a place of, it suspends your disbelief for you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to, like, you get so into it and invested that at the end of it, there is that moment of like, I really hope these guys are all right.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And then to continue to sell it with the EMTs afterwards was a brilliant move, because it then furthers that, and it gives you a lot of different directions to go.
Yeah. I think part of the crowd going quiet was, what I think I saw was potentially like there was a medical team at ringside, and they kind of swooped in at the end of the match. And I wonder if that kind of put the crowd, kind of off foot a little bit, because it's like, shoot, was someone hurt?
Well, especially for Drew, I'm sure they were like, okay, well, we're going to make sure we get him a gauze bandage.
I mean, that guy was juicing like crazy. I mean, holy moly.
Like, that was, the thing is, like, and Mick Foley had pointed this out, like, the different types of blood when you're bleeding from different areas and stuff. That was tomato soup.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like someone had just poured a can of Campbell's tomato soup over his head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that ain't good.
No.
When you see blood coming out like that kind of consistency and that quick, like, that's
he was bleeding. The wrestling term is hard way. He was legitimately busted open.
And I think in most cases, if that had not been a Hell in a Cell match, I think there's a case to be made. They would have paused the match, because that is something that they've started doing more out of course, out of concern for the performers, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those deals where it's almost like there might have been a little conversation at the beginning, going out there, a little Apollo Rocky, like, don't stop this thing no matter what,
no matter what.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, that
haunting words.
Yeah. So what do you give that one, sir?
And I'm probably biased a bit by,
oh boy, he's equivocating. This is going to be good.
The story leading up to it, but as we were texting each other, this was damn near a perfect match, given the feud and given the build up to it. And I mean, I wrote this in our show notes for effect, but I mean, this blows the 5-star scale out of the water. This is beyond 5 stars to me.
Mm-hmm.
They hit the notes they needed to, that called back to a lot of different things across the last 10 months. So for me, I really feel like this match is just damn near perfect. I mean, it made Hell in the Cell a vicious, violent environment, which it needs to be.
It brought it back.
No one climbed to the top of the cage and got thrown off, or
Nope.
no one climbed to the top of the cage and got put through the cage. The cage was the instrument to keep these two competitors together in a very violent and vicious contest to determine a winner.
Mm-hmm. It was a container and a weapon.
Exactly. And I think they did a masterful job of it.
Mm-hmm.
I get, and I don't want to give, it's, I know I'm wearing the shirt, but it can't be all Punk. It's Punk and McIntyre as a duo who have put on a hell of a show over the last 10 months.
Oh yeah.
And
no, they've equally had parts. I think
absolutely.
McIntyre has come into his own to a degree
yes.
that he didn't even hit when he was champ. Like this angle, and I think I said it right after, like when Punk got hurt and when he was doing his work before even WrestleMania. I'm like, if this guy continues to play like the unhinged heel, this is other level work.
I've read some theories that going into WrestleMania, that maybe McIntyre challenges Cody for the Undisputed Championship. You know what? If he shows up on SmackDown and claims he's worked some deal or whatever like that, I think there's an element of the crowd that might be popping for him in a positive way because of the toughness. There's another element of the crowd that might boo the crap out of him because of who he is, but he makes a very viable heel. Like, even though he lost this, I don't think he lost anything in terms of being a viable heel.
No, not at all. Least he gained.
Not at all.
He gained. Like, this is a situation where Mick Foley had talked about, like, there's no you're going over, but there's no reason why I can't get over as well.
Right. Exactly.
They both got over. They both got theirs.
Exactly.
And I don't know. I don't necessarily say I'd see him going after Cody Rhodes. I could see him hanging around Raw and being in a slow orbit, like maybe having some other stuff going on, and he's got some other people that he wants to kind of settle some things with, and maybe staying away from Punk.
Yeah,
I could definitely see if there's a Rollins Punk feud and that culminates in Punk getting a title.
Yep.
I can definitely see Drew coming back into the picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but again, there's so many options there. So
but
it's good. But what is the rating you're going to give this, sir? You're like
6+ stars is what I gave it.
6+.
And I want to encourage the audience here. Like, if you haven't watched SummerSlam, if you haven't watched Bash in Berlin, watch those two before you watch this match. If you have Peacock, check those two events out. Watch specifically CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, and then watch this Hell in the Cell match, and you will understand why this is such a perfect match in every sense of the word by these two guys. I mean, they put it all on the line. They brought a realism to this match that, you just never questioned. And we've talked a lot about it, but I think rightfully so. I mean, this was match of the night.
Yes.
Hands down.
Yeah.
As good as Roman and Cody were,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, this was match of the night, hands down, and it was the
Yeah.
first match of the event.
Yep. 5 stars for me.
And what about you? Sorry.
5. 5. 5. 5. 5.
5.
So then we move on. We have a little bit of we have a segment in between.
Wait a minute. Uncle Todd texts me and is like, I feel bad for whatever's going to follow this. And he's like, do you think it's going to be Jackson Bailey? And
No, I said it was going to be Jackson Bailey.
You called it.
But in between there, we had a little luxury suite segment, which was something. It was not good.
No.
It's weird because I feel like we are so heading for a Bianca Belair heel turn, but we're taking our sweet ass time getting there. And I understand because I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on in the women's division that they're trying to kind of settle.
Yeah.
I think that the whole Charlotte Flair thing plays a part in that, in terms of like what's she going to do, and then the experiment with one of the people in the match that coming up is another. However, oh god, that was painful to watch. So then we get to the next announced match. We have the WWE Women's Championship, Nia Jax defending against Bayley.
Can we try to keep this short because there isn't a whole lot to talk about here?
No, I've got thoughts.
Okay.
My thing that I texted the man they call Tim was whose brilliant idea was it to let Nia Jax's Nasal Jax, that's what I'm going to continue to call her from now on. Nasal Jax promo lead off the hype package for this match. Like, this is not what you should be featuring.
No.
The woman, God bless her, she may be the nicest person in the world. She might bake cookies for everyone backstage. Her promos are painful. Her promos are just absolutely painful. It's terrible. And then we roll her out to the her entrance, and it says something, that you've got the champ coming out first, because we all know that Bayley's pop is going to be bigger because ain't nobody give an F about Nia Jax. I'm just going to read verbatim my comment that I wrote as the interminable entrance was happening. Once again, I don't buy there's anything behind Nia's blank expression. Someone that physically imposing shouldn't look as nervous as she always seems to look approaching the ring. There was this one moment, one split second, there was a momentary smirk holding up the belt, and then any kind of legitimacy is gone. It was gone. She had this one moment of like, aha, she believes in herself, and then boom, no, then she seems completely unsure. For someone who is as physically dominant as her, she does not look like she knows what the hell she is doing, and I don't know that's something that you can fix.
Do you know what I was doing during the entrances?
You were loading the dishwasher.
I was loading the damn dishwasher. That's what I was doing.
I wish I had been loading your dishwasher, not even mine. I would have driven to Chicago to load your dishwasher just to miss this.
I dirtied a lot of plates making the flank steak, making the brats, the Brussels sprouts that my wife made for me. I mean, it was just like it was the right thing to do, and it was the right time to do it. Because
it was honestly
after
the right time to do it
match,
would have been during the match.
Oh,
so we start off and we get
Sweet
slaps.
Moses.
Slaps, Nia? Really? Come on. Here's the thing. Like even her power moves look weak, and the freaking screech. Oh my gosh.
Dude, she is like at Vicky Guerrero level of obnoxiousness with that voice. Good God.
Then there was a Bayley tried a suicide dive. I'm not sure who screwed it up, but I'm just going to blame Nia because I can. Bayley's trying a power bomb when
there was
Nia
a number of screw ups during this match.
So many.
And I don't blame Bayley for it, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, Bayley was trying a power bomb from the Nia was on the top rope. Nia reversed it into some of one of the most, there's no better way to say this, shit-tastic version of a Hurricane Rana that you can ever imagine. I want to know the agent who okayed that, because I feel like they really need to go back in training. There was some sort of another botch with a sunset flip. I mean, gosh.
Can I just call out Michael Cole and Corey Graves for almost like being apologists for this match?
I'm surprised they weren't like Bob Uecker in Major League, where they were actively drinking during this match.
They worked damn overtime to sell this match oh my God, Nia was trying to do this, but this happened. I mean, it was so bad that they had to over-explain what Nia Jax was trying to do. And I'm sitting here like, guys, just stop it.
What I loved is your comment on giving kudos to the cleaning crew for the ring cleanup. And leading me to wonder, did they Scotch guard the?
They must have. Damn it! There was no blood on the ring. Holy crap! After that carnage, like there was no sign of it after that.
That's going to be the next. That's going to be like the next endorsement for WWE. Is they're going to have like a stain guard. There was one good moment when Nia was out. When she was outside the ring and Bayley couldn't drag her back into the ring. I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of a realistic problem that you would face in this scenario. Like you knock this person out on the outside of the ring, but you physically cannot move them back into the ring.
Yeah.
Absolute shitty powerbomb on the stairs, toss into the barricade, which a combination that led me to this, because the powerbomb was terrible, and then the toss into the barricade looked like it legitimately wounded Bayley. And I said, the trouble is when Nia Jax is supposed to look devastating, it looks like crap. Then she does stuff that legit looks like she doesn't give a crap about her opponent and is just going to maim them. Just bad for business all the way around.
Yeah.
Bayley, impressive Samoan drop. That was good. And I know that Nia helped out with that, but I mean, so she got one thing right. The interesting ref bump of Nia being of dropping onto the ref. I thought that was kind of cool. Kind of an innovative way on that. And then we got Tiffany Stratton coming down to the ring because we need some more BS in this thing. Another Samoan Raw drop and Annihilator, Nia Jax pins, and it may have legitimately crushed Bayley's ribs because she can't work safely. No winners, we all lose. Nia Jax, Nasal Jax retains. The way I'm going to score this one, this match gets okay. Let's break this down. First of all, 5 stars for announcers covering the BS in this. I'm going to give 5 stars for Bayley for making this work. I'm going to give negative 100 stars for Nia. I'm going to work all that out to basically the average of the match is going to be about a 1.5 for the match. And I feel like that's actually being generous. I feel like I
shockingly went lower than you. I said 1 star. I said 1 star because there were so many missteps in this match. And, we can blame Nia. I was shocked.
Let's blame Nia. I think that's a good, best way to go.
But I was shocked by how much Graves and Cole had to cover for her.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, Nia did this. It's like, no, she didn't. She freaking screwed up. And
so here's the thing. Like I understand the idea of putting the belt on Nia. I get it. Like the Queen of the Ring,
supposed to be a monster heel.
But I get it because at this point, if it's for the idea of we need to see if she can legitimately do this. If we give her the ball, is she going to run with it or is she going to poop her pants and trip and fall?
Yep.
I think that we have she's definitely pooped her pants and she's in the process of falling. And so now like what we do from this going forward, because Bayley has been very well received in her last bunch of matches. People love them some Bayley.
Yep.
She can work. She might not be the greatest ever, in terms of ring technician or everything, but she has a charisma. Nia Jax has none.
Nope.
And so
what we need is a story. We need a build up to something that we can believe.
They need to get the belt off of her. They need to get the belt off her and just admit, you know what? This ain't working. It just isn't. It is not working, and it will not work. Like there are like I say, like I don't know that you can teach this person to act confident. I don't know that that's going to happen. Like she's been in this business long enough.
Yep.
Do you just want to continue playing this game of, oh, well, someday maybe she'll pull it together, maybe when she's like 45, okay, but in the meantime, you have a bunch of other people who could be taking that spot.
Right.
It's got to end. Paul, it's got to end. And I don't say that, I mean, I'm sure, again, she could be the nicest person in the world, but you know what? I feel like I'm a pretty nice person, but the Celtics ain't signing me to play point guard because I can't run, I can't jump, I can't pass, and I can't shoot. That's the breaks, folks.
Yep.
So thankfully, that match is over, and it essentially took all of the impact and the kind of the the crowd being dead. So this was, I got to say, this was scheduled perfectly, and Triple H actually, God love him, afterwards where he talked about the Hell in a Cell being incredible. And he's like, Bayley Nia had a great match, and then all the rest, everyone else had a really great match.
Yeah.
Bayley Nia just great. I'm like, okay, if you read the between the lines, there's like, and that was the drizzling, as Uncle Corny would say. So
yes,
it's time for this experiment to end. I think
it was the weakest match on the card.
I mean,
by
it
far,
it was the weakest match of the year.
Yep.
On a PLE, and we've watched most of them.
Yep.
I feel pretty comfortable saying that.
Yep.
That was terrible.
Amen.
That was worse than Charles Barkley's golf swing.
Hallelujah.
All right. So now as the palate cleanser, we get nothing on the line. Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. It's basically for, who's
bragging rights.
For a moment, I actually thought that Finn was going to come out as the demon. Like with the way the smoke was coming out and stuff. I
just love how he comes out with a bag on his head, and it just looks like, how the hell does he see where he's going?
What is it with him and the masks and the things and why? Like who keeps telling him this is a good idea?
He clearly can see the crowd because he's like walking out with this thing on his head and he's like gesturing.
It had little slits in it. Like I could tell there was like some eye holes, but at the same time, like there's got to be a better thing. Like I know that every wrestler's got to have their thing. There's got to be a better thing than that. If anything, like, no, never mind. I'm not gonna say anything. Anyways, so I thought it was funny. Not a whole lot of excitement for Balor's entrance. One big meh from the crowd. A bit better reaction for Priest, but not a whole lot. I think everyone has a hangover from the last match, which is true. Didn't quite absorb all of it. It was like that. It's like when you have like that really bad hangover in college, and you think like a bacon, egg, and cheese like biscuit sandwich from like McDonald's is going to cure everything, and then like 85% it does, but you still know like I'm still not quite there yet.
Nope.
And you contemplate like maybe if I have a little hair of the dog, and you just can't quite do it. Like no, that I'm gonna puke up whatever this sandwich is. I felt like that's where the crowd was. Like they had a collective, just like
collective dry heave.
Yeah, you know what? That was the best way to describe the previous match. Actually, no. That was the entrance. The previous match was just a retching projectile vomit. Anyways, so a lot of my comments here were first one here, Priest showing you how to make power moves look good. Take notes, Nia. And then I kind of lost track of things because I actually wrote this down. Not taking too many notes, debating whether to order some Mexican food. This is the danger.
Gosh.
This is the danger with doing these things too early. Is like it's still early enough for me to have something to eat.
I could have dinner.
I was going to have some queso. I thought about having some enchiladas. I went back and forth several times. Some nice reversals in this one, and I thought that, like overall, like these two did a great job of getting the crowd back into not just this match, back into the show, because the previous match was a show killer.
Yep.
I do not love nor approve of how everyone kicks out of the Razor's Edge now. That was like nobody kicked out of the Razor's Edge.
Sacrilege.
And now everybody does, and it pisses me off. Good Razor's Edge on the ring apron. Of course, we get Judgment Day interference. I'm guessing it was JD McDonough that was under the ring, or no? Was it Yeah, because Carlito came down the entrance, and then So okay, so JD was under there again. Another reason to hate JD. We get a 2 count for Finn. A lot of great counters by Finn. Multiple stomps by Finn, but then Priest catches him off the top for a goozle. Priest wins. I'm giving this one, it probably was only about a 2.53, but I'm giving it a 3.5 for pulling the PLE out of the hellhole that Nia Jax dug.
Here's what I think the match did that was different or set it apart from like the Nia Bayley match was
being good.
Being good, but I felt like the match did a good job of helping communicate the depth of the feud between Priest and Balor. That the action in the ring or outside of the ring was demonstrating, while it wasn't at the level of a Hell in a Cell match, there was definitely a beef that needed to be settled between these two.
There was an edge, yeah.
There was an edge there. And so I liked the way the match was structured. I liked the action in the match and the fact that, we saw a nice back and forth between the two, and, we had some interference from Judgment Day, but, Priest was able to overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
And so all in all, I just feel like it, compared to the Nia Bailey match, this was a nice, like you put it, palate cleanser. It allowed you to kind of, reset a little bit. We can now go into the next match. Priest won, the feud is over. They all move forward now.
Yeah.
And we now, get this other part of the feud, which is, somewhat separate from Priest, which is Rhea and Liv Morgan.
Yeah. What'd you give this one?
I gave it a 3.5 as well. I thought it was a match that, I couldn't give it 4, but I felt like it was above average. It told a great story, and it, through the action, communicated that story and the feud that existed between the two principals in it, which were, Priest and Balor. And so, so overall, I thought it was a 3.5, thought it was well done. And in a lot of ways, I think salvaged the event a little bit.
Totally.
Because Punk and McIntyre was so good. Bailey and Nia Jax was so bad.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like, this was like right smack in the middle of all of that. And
it was very Dickensian. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
It was. Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And then pretty good. All right. I unfortunately am going to have to call another 30-second timeout.
That's
I'm
okay.
very well hydrated. I'll be right back.
12 seconds later.
And this feast before you represents the last of the petty cash. All right. And we are back mid-snack.
Skinny Pop.
Actually, you know what? I can't remember if it was a Skinny Pop or the Pirate's Booty that I don't like. I don't know if I like either of them. Popcorn out of a pre-popped bag is always kind of a thing for me. It's like,
it's always good.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so next we're on to the Women's World Championship. Liv Morgan defending against Rhea Ripley. I am still amazed at how over Rhea is. Like, it never fails to amaze me. The pop she gets, the reception she gets, just how much people like her or like her character or just are just like fascinated by her. And how well and how naturally she feeds off it. And if she is, if it is like so totally contrived and it's not an ease, man, she hides it real well. If she were to come and say, or maybe she has an interview and be like, oh yeah, I'm so nervous and it's so hard for me to do this. And it's like, dude, you've totally, because there's been some talk about her, whether she wants to pursue acting. If this is contrived, dude, you need to get into acting.
Yeah.
Because you're really good at it.
Yep.
Man. First note in this, once again, Nia, take notes on how Rhea makes these power moves actually look good rather than complete shit.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the beginning of this was great. I thought the whole locking Dom in the shark cage was great. The concern from Liv, the whole deal, the fact that it was I was expecting it to be over the ring.
Yes.
So I was a little disappointed when it was over the entryway. I kind of understand why now, knowing how it unfolds. However, I thought it would have been very interesting him hanging over the ring itself. But I understand the logistics of that and how it would have drawn attention. It also lent again to some really good camera angles where you could tell they were trying to get Rhea and Liv and Dom in the frame.
Yep.
And so it lent itself to in a way, it feels like that's a decision that was either made and then it's like, okay, well, let's use this as a way to try to change our visual language. Like, let's use this challenge as a way to expand our way of doing things. Because I felt like, again, there was a lot of shots and I'm like, you don't normally see that. and really well done. So yeah, that was good. Kind of at the beginning, a couple of awkward moments, but still, I mean, a really good flow. And again, like I feel like this goes back to number one, Rhea, I think is just a generational talent, but also, damn, Liv is really good.
Yes.
And in this feud especially is doing some great work. And I never really thought much about Liv Morgan one way or the other. She's doing really good work right now. And we can talk about this after the match. I think it might cause a bit of a problem here, which is weird to say, like how good she is and how good she is doing this now. It might cause a problem for where they might have had this whole story planned. Mm-hmm. The friggin' barricade bomb was brutal.
Yeah.
And again, the shots back to Dom. Oh, the Dominic toilet paper, that was a nice touch.
That was well done.
Well, we had a Three Amigos spoiled by Rhea. Mm-hmm. Then the Frog Star splash by Rhea, which was, I mean, it's funny because I know that in reality, Rhea is not like a gigantic person. You know, I mean, she's more ripped than I'll ever be, but she's not like 6'5" or anything. So, I mean, she's probably comparable height to Eddie Guerrero. I'm sure if we Google it right now, like they might be the same height.
Yeah.
You know, because Eddie Guerrero was not like the biggest dude ever. But it's still so weird just to see her going up on the top rope and doing something like that. It is that whole like, holy crap, just because then you look at Liv and she's that much bigger than, you know, taller than Liv. I thought it was, that only gets a 2 count though. Then somehow Dom gets the cage door open, which was this thing where I'm like, okay, is this a legit like botch? Like, was he not supposed to have the door open? And then like there was this weird thing where I couldn't tell if it was a work or a shoot. Then we have the submission move by Rhea. Rhea does a riptide to Liv on the outside. The funniest part of this was like Rhea and Liv had been outside for approximately 5 minutes. There's no 10 count by the ref. They just gave up on that. I was like, okay, this kind of breaks a little bit of the reality. Dom falling out of the cage was a legit jump scare moment for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I did not see that coming whatsoever, even though he had the cage open. Like it legit made me jump on my couch like, oh crap. Oh, then I'm like, oh, you sons of bitches, you got me. I mean, did that happen for you as well, or am I just like that much of a friggin' nervous Nelly?
No, I mean it was interesting, and like what I thought was odd was when he opened the door, and then I'm like, what are they doing here? You know, like it seems strange to me. Like he's so high off the ground, I don't see him, you know, rappelling down or anything like that. So I'm like, what are they trying to do here? And so when he fell out, I was for a moment concerned, but then I'm like, okay, now I see what they're doing. You know, he's attached to the cage, he's dangling. My immediate thought is, oh, he looks like a piñata. And then we saw what happened next. So, you know.
So just for reference, Eddie Guerrero, 5'8".
Okay.
Right around my height. Rhea Ripley, 5'7".
All right.
So, all right. But it totally is the difference in height. Like you just think of Rhea as that much bigger, because I'm sure Liv is like 5'4", 5'5". Like she's not a tall woman. But damn, she's a much better athlete than I think I ever gave her credit for. I thought it was great. Love the moment with the ref cam. Mm-hmm. The first like actually great use of the ref cam when she's like, you know, I'm gonna come back to this in a minute, but I got to go take care of this, and the ref's like, you deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was like the best use of the ref cam ever. Like it took him a little while to kind of figure out how to use this. That was great. And then the fact that like she calls the camera over and like, happy birthday to me, and just starts wearing Dom out with freaking kendo stick. Oh my gosh. Like that's the type of thing where I'm pretty sure Dom had a flak jacket on because he had like 18 layers going on there, but still that's the kind of thing that you kind of have to apologize for a little bit afterwards, I'm sure. Then the whole finish, this is where things went really off the rails. I don't think you needed to do this. Raquel Rodriguez coming in, We get the DQ, and later I found out through WrestleMania that apparently the original was that Raquel was supposed to come in, drape Liv over Rhea, and that was supposed to be the finish. But the ref, apparently, for whatever reason, because of the logistics, they couldn't cover up the fact that the ref had seen everything and had to ring the bell in order to provide at least a shred of realism.
Mm-hmm.
It's, oh my gosh, it was so awkward as hell, and there was no announcement. The bell just rings. Commentators are filling in the blank. The live crowd's probably just like sitting there going, "What the F is going on?" And not good. We were heading to like a 3.5, 3 3/4 star match here before the finish. It was a nice little match. I felt like it had a good flow. It was telling a story, and then we had the finish. Unfortunately, I got to take this down to like 2.25 stars, which is a rarity for me with any Rhea match, and especially with the way that these two have been working together. Like, this thing hit a serious sideways swerve at the end, and not a good one. Anyways, I've been jabbering on, but I don't know why I decided to do play-by-play on this, but what are your thoughts, sir?
With regard to the match, great action between the principals in the match. I think Morgan and Ripley are, they have that intangible concoction, that happens between, opponents that just works, and I think that came through in the match. The main note that I have that was hysterical to me was when Ripley looks at the ref cam and basically negotiates. She's like, "Look, I need to go do this. I need to settle up some scores." And then Corey Graves in his commentary says, "There you have it, Cole. You crooked fool." Know, like just accusing the referee of being crooked and letting her do this. Which
is good.
Is fair.
Yeah, well, no, like that could be
she's breaking the rules. In a way she is, and then in a way she's not, right? I mean, she's not taking the cane to Liv. She's taking the cane to Dom, who is not involved in the title match. But just it was hysterical the way she was treating him like a piñata, and then the execution of Raquel Rodriguez, I think. In fairness to her, I think could be a very compelling foil to Rhea Ripley because of her size and her build and everything.
Yeah, on paper.
But the way they did it
no.
was just like, oh my God, what the hell just happened?
Well, and it doesn't help that I don't know that they've found a lane for her. I don't know that they've found something that's going to make anyone care about her. I mean, Triple H got her friggin' name wrong in the press conference afterwards.
Yeah.
Called her Raquel Gonzalez.
Right.
I'm like, okay, you're having a flashback to Giant Gonzalez maybe because of something, maybe it was the Nia Jax match that just tripped him out. I don't know. But
so I agree
she's not like notable.
Yeah, and I agree with you that I think leading up to that finish, the match was above average.
Oh, totally.
But that finish killed the match. Like, no one understood what the hell was going on and why the ref called the match and all that.
Yeah.
So I probably could have given this a 3 or a 3.5 based on the in-ring action. But because of the way it all played out toward the end, I gave it a 2.0. It was a flat ending. Wow. It was awful.
Yeah. No, but justified.
And
and this leads us into a discussion because I think I feel like the problem here is that Liv has been so good as the heel champ.
Yes.
You have to extend this, but the problem is like this has been kind of like a one note sort of thing. And you can't easily just peel Rhea off into another thing because it isn't about Dom.
Right.
It's very clearly, because she's kind of made that clear, it's about the championship. So if she doesn't win the championship, you got to find some other way. And I don't know that there is.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to take the belt off of Liv yet because she's been so friggin' good. So how do you extend this feud? And I get that you're trying to bring
this was a creative way to do that or creative way to keep the belt off of Rhea, but the execution was just off.
Yeah.
It was awful.
It's not as bad as some of the BS finishes back from previous, way back in the day, 90s and 2000s. pay-per-views or anything, but still, for what we've come to expect over the last few months and the last year or so, this kind of stood out as like okay, yeah, this is a kind of an FU to the fans.
Yes.
But I mean, the fact that you have kind of a botch might save you, because then you can kind of blame it. Oh, well, it didn't quite go off as planned. It might have been better. It's like, okay, well, this buys you some time. How are you going to make this compelling going forward? And how are you going to keep this from being about Judgment Day? That's the other thing, is that Judgment Day, apparently now this is going to be like the end of the Terror Twins. Like now Rhea and Damien are going their separate ways. Okay, fine. But how do you keep Judgment Day out of this so that it doesn't become that gang up factor and all that? And that's been kind of the problem with Judgment Day, is like any feuds that they're involved with, it involves all of them. I don't know how you necessarily navigate this.
Right.
I mean, it's in a way, it's kind of a first world problem. Like, wow, you got a super overperforming heel champion that you kind of figured we played out by now, but it ain't. And then you've got like the red hot baby face that people love and love no matter. I mean, literally, Rhea Ripley could hit her music, come out, flash a couple smiles, laugh, and walk off, and people would be satisfied with that segment on Raw.
Yep.
That's how fracking over she is.
Yep.
So you've got those two things, but now it's like we got to figure a way to make this kind of creatively work, because you're trying to stretch, and stretching is not always good.
Mm-hmm.
So, any old who. So we have that kind of wet fart, then leading us into the main event.
Yes, indeed.
The Mega Powers versus I mean, I don't very I don't know how you describe this. Solo Sikoa, we got a Bloodline 2.0 versus Bloodline 1.5.
Bloodline OTC.
Yeah. Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu versus Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
I thought it was a nice touch with the marching band for Cody. I mean, as a band geek, till the day I die, man, I will always pop for the marching band. It was kind of cool. I didn't know if I needed the entire theme played once and then played again, but I'll forgive that.
I just love how they were going to transition to the actual theme music, and you hear that one trumpet go. Well,
and they had to play the there's more than one royal family. You know, like they had to do that twice to kind of be like, okay, we got to cover this crap.
Oh,
which makes me wonder, like in some ways, and it's kind of I'd be fascinated to find this out. Like, what does the sound mix look like when they're playing? Is it like just a solid like MP3, or do you have tracks that you can actually like, okay, we can do the intro and then we can do this, so that we can loop it and do all these different things? Like, is it a live mix that's happening? Is it almost like a DJ situation? Like, that'd be kind of cool. Or did they literally just play it again sort of thing? That was very interesting. I don't love the skull mask for Cody, but damn, the fist bump for the band. Yes, I'm all in.
Yep.
The background from Cole and Graves for Cody, chef's kiss. So much great stuff there in terms of like everything having to do with like going back to Dusty and Ric Flair and all that. Like everything that they filled in was great. Then we get to Roman Reigns intro. Oy vey. For all the great camera angles we got through this, the one where it showed the timpani player with the mallets were like a foot away from the drum head. Come on. I mean, we know that's not going to be live.
Yep.
Do a long shot on that one. Pretty please. But then, of course, everyone throwing up the one for Roman. That was like...
Yeah.
And that is the first real entrance we've gotten for Roman, which they kind of pointed out, which I'm like, at first I'm like, are we really pointing out the fact that like this is his first official entrance? I'm like, well, yeah, because it's such an event. His entrance has become an event, whether I like it or not, whether the fact it takes like fracking 12 minutes or not. Yes, it's an event. So it's kind of worth noting, I guess, but the timpani kind of still pissed me off. Dude, one thing I wanted to point out, because I didn't catch this, I didn't note it down until the very end here. love the dude sitting right at the end of the aisle, right before you get to like kind of the, you know, there was a dude there sporting a fresh cut, sharp suit, like tie, the whole, like that man came to do some business. Like that man put it, he was like, this is an occasion.
Nice.
I'm putting on my Sunday go to meeting suit. I'm going to see me some WWE. I'm like,
there you go.
Yes.
There you go.
I would not do that. Like that is commitment that I don't possess. Props, sir. Like you, sir, are what makes this world a great thing.
Yep.
I love the fact that they did the Ole Dusty background callback. I mean, oh my gosh. And then we actually, again, this is all like the entrances. Then we get to the start of the match and we have that like 4-minute conversation between Cody and Roman about who's going to start the match, which was great because it was that moment of like, it was great because you have this different power dynamic and Roman kind of playing that like, I've been here before. Are you really sure you want to do this? You want to start off? Really? Okay. That sort of thing. Like, it's such a different vibe for Roman that I was like, I'm kind of getting into this. Like, okay, you're pulling me back in here. Like there is this, here's a different wrinkle. And again, where the art of pro wrestling is, part of it is the presentation of the characters, like here, putting Roman in a spot that he hasn't been in, and where they pointed out, like, this is the first time in 4 years he's come to the ring without a championship belt. Holy crap, that is something, you know? But I thought that was great, just the fact that it took that long for them to decide, like, who's going to start the match. Anyways, I've been talking for like 10 straight minutes. Do you want to contribute or any thoughts?
No, I think you gave a good overview of the entrances. I too was amused by the beginning where, and it was interesting to see how Roman played it, where he was very kind of nonchalant about it. You know, he's like, all right, I'll just go over here for now. You know, you're the champ, sort of thing.
Very deferential.
Yes.
Which kind of made you almost think like, okay, something's gonna be up. He's being too nice.
I love the slow pace start to the match where you had kind of a like my notes. I had a little tussling between Cody and Jacob, which was great. And then you had Roman and Solo facing off, which I thought was great too, because of course they were kind of holding out for Roman and Jacob, you know, to kind of face off, the two, you know, in some ways alpha males. Even though Solo is claiming to be the new tribal chief, you know, there's a viciousness to Jacob that you feel only Roman can kind of counter.
Yeah, dude, they made him look so strong. Like he just totally no-sells that disaster kick.
Oh yeah.
And then you end up getting the face off with everyone coming in, because it's like, okay, well, if Solo's gonna come in, then I'm gonna come in, and oh yes, I love that dramatic tag to Roman. Like, all right, it's time, sort of thing. like him, like extending the hand.
But then we get
so great.
Then we get to the bloodline cutting the ring in half and basically whooping on Cody. I mean, Cody becomes the Ricky Morton, if you will, you know, throughout a good chunk of the match.
Like 95% of our audience has no idea who Ricky Morton is. I barely know who Ricky Morton is. So Rock and Roll Express, right?
Right, Rock and Roll Express. But Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express was usually the member of the team that would take the whooping during most of the match, and then tag in his partner to come in and then clean house and kind of bring, you know, the fire.
Who was
which is what Roman was. So Cody was taking the beating. When he finally got to the point of tagging Roman, we got a great hot tag to Roman, and he comes in like a ball of fire and just
Robert Gibson,
thank you, laying waste to everyone. You know, great energy during the match, a lot of close pinfalls, great action outside the ring with Cody and Jacob. I absolutely love the fact that they played on the history here with you know, Jacob Fatu, who had, you know, done a dive off the top rope to the outside on a table with Cody. Cody finds himself in that position now.
Can we go back just for a couple, 1 second? Because there's two things I just want to note.
Yes.
So I think they've done a great job with Solo in terms of like upping his viciousness and upping like the legitimacy of who he is claiming to be.
Yes.
And has given him some legitimacy through wins over big names and making him look better.
Yep.
Dude, there was one moment when I was like, and this is a little snug. Some folks have better working punches than others.
Mm-hmm.
Solo's punches looked like crap, or either that or they had a really bad camera angle, because I'm like, this just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I thought it was great when we get because we got the drop down uppercut that Cody does, which I thought was great. But then we start getting the left jabs, and we're gonna get the flip flop and fly.
Yep.
And Cody threw in a little bit of the dream hip swivel.
Oh yeah.
Which I was like,
yep.
Oh.
Yep. I
Dusty
remember you sent me a text about that.
Dusty's like, that's my boy right there. Yeah, let me tell you, I taught him how to do that. You got to it's about getting all the hips in there.
Or as The Rock later on said, "I love you, Dusty. I hate your son."
Yes. But oh, that was so good.
My gosh.
That was so good. And then I love how they, like you were saying, they call back that whole moment, and we get the reverse.
Yep.
And dude, didn't you just love that moment when he turns to Roman and gives him the salute? Like,
oh my God, that's where I was going. Was I love the salute before he's like, "The hell with it."
Yeah.
Off he goes.
It's that acknowledgement of like, I trust you. You got to take this thing home, because if I do this, I'm out.
Yes.
Like I'm taking him out, but I'm also taking myself out. So you better have this.
Yep.
I love that moment. That was so good. Like, yeah. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. And that's where I was going with it. Was I thought that was such a great touch to have him not only, have that sort of vengeance on Jacob Fatu, but, to turn and acknowledge in a way, his rival and say, look at what I'm about to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like this is my level of seriousness here,
Yeah.
And then go and do it. Was phenomenal. And then I love the, in some ways there was a similar feel to Jimmy showing up as Raquel Rodriguez, where it was just like, what the hell just happened?
No. So it was done much better. It was executed much better.
I didn't feel that way though.
Really?
I felt like all of a sudden out of the blue, it's like, who's that guy? Now I know who it was, or I assumed who it was.
Yeah.
But it was like, just the way it was done just felt like kind of like out of the blue. You know what I mean?
The thing
like,
is, you already have
weird to me.
Yeah, you have the Tongan run in. So yeah, there is a
wasn't as bad. Wasn't bad in execution, but it was just like,
yeah,
it just felt very sudden and out of nowhere. It's like, okay, where did this guy appear from?
It wasn't the same, but it definitely rhymed. Like there's that thing, because you had the Judgment Day interference, and then all of a sudden you have the third person coming out of nowhere.
Yep.
This was executed much better, and whether that's because of the circumstances or the heat of the battle or whatever, or they just set it up better, I don't know. Yeah. I do know Jimmy Uso pulled off that moment better, and I think also that's because of the fact that we know who Jimmy Uso is as a character.
Yeah.
At least we feel like we know who he is. Raquel Rodriguez, I still have no idea.
Yeah.
She's an imposing physical person.
She has a history with Liv Morgan, but it's not well known.
Yeah, but it's like there's no character there.
Yeah.
And maybe this is on their way to the building one, but with Jimmy Uso, you know who that is, and as soon as it's a dude with a friggin' do-rag mask and a hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I know who this is. And then sure enough, and the way he played that when he pulled down the mask, even though as soon as he took off the hoodie, you know who it is.
He should have done, "What's up?" Like his tongue hanging out was like a total "was up." You know what I mean?
The Dudleys have dibs on that.
I know. Fair enough.
But that was my one note from that, was like, welcome back, Jimmy Uso.
Yep.
Roman Spear, pin Solo, Roman Cody win. What is your rating for this, sir? I'm curious.
So my rating for this was, I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was well done. I like how, as
did it have a nice personality? Because that's where I feel like you're heading here.
A nice personality? No, it was more about the fact that I liked how they had Cody as the face in peril, and he had to tag in his mortal enemy, if you will.
Yes, if you will,
to come in and wreak havoc. And at the end of the match, I liked the tension where Jimmy had to kind of tickle Roman's conscience a little bit. Roman's like, no, this was a one-time thing. He's like, dude, we got to go help this guy. Come on now.
Well, but I love the fact that Jimmy was very so I didn't even get into that. I love how Roman and Jimmy hug after. There's no handshake for Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Tongans jump Cody.
Yes.
Roman and Jimmy come back to help, but it's not before we have that moment on the aisle where, like you say, like Jimmy is playing literally Jiminy Cricket.
Yes.
To Roman's Pinocchio.
Yep.
And like you say, he's like, that's a one-time thing, but he plays it note perfect because
he does.
Jimmy is his conscience, but yet he is also the loyal soldier because he comes back to that thing. I'll do whatever you do, Oos. I'm with you, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And that moment when Roman kind of like, he almost nods and that's like all Jimmy needs. He's like,
but it's like Jimmy has to remind him about like that salute moment. Like, look at what this guy did.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, how can you, as much as Roman probably hates Cody,
mm-hmm.
And it's probably, again, I love this about the character. It's probably eating at him that he has to do this. But the fact that, Cody put everything on the line for him.
Yes.
And he's like, all right, we got to go back and do it. And they go back in and they beat the crap out of, Bloodline 2.0 and kick him out of the ring at least.
Which also goes back to like that whole thing of like the greatest heel believes they are completely justified in their actions, which means that in Roman's mind, he is a man of honor.
Yes.
Even if in everyone else's perspective, like, no, you've twisted honor.
Yes.
He believes he's a man of honor. And so in this moment when his honor is challenged, he's like, son of a bitch.
Yep.
And away we go.
Yep.
And again, it's great storytelling and it's multi-layered storytelling, which is so great. And then
did I give you my star rating yet?
No, we haven't, but you know what? Let's get to the
okay.
Well, go ahead. No, get to the, because it's a good break.
No, you're right. Let's get to the tail end. Let's get tail end of the event and then we'll cover the star rating because that kind of includes that.
So we have that moment. They fend them off. Cody is selling like a mofo. Roman picks up the belt and hands it to Cody, which is that moment. And that's me saying that does not communicate like the tension in that moment of how long it took for that to happen, for him to hand the belt to him. And then we kind of, in a way, we get that handshake at the end of the match that you kind of wanted, even though you're like, they're rivals, but you kind of want that as a fan. And again, it's that thing where like, even though you're smartened up to the business, they fracking did it to you again. They pulled you in, except for that friggin' Nasal Jax match. They've pulled you in, son of a bitch. You're in there again, and damn it, they got you. And you're like, I want that, and you get it.
Yep.
And then, if you smell what the Rock is cooking,
the final boss.
The great one shows up, and what I thought was most funny about this, I mean, granted, it is a goosebump moment, and Triple H put it best, where he's like, he's got to be the biggest star in the world because he shows up, hits his music, and then just walks out, and he doesn't say a word, and pops the crowd, not CM Punk level, returning at Survivor Series, because I watched that video today again because I was and still am in awe of the sheer volume. I think CM Punk surpassed what Austin did in his prime, which is saying something. Granted, it was his town. But Rock, still people blown away that he showed back up, did the 1, 2, 3, and then turned around, peaced out. I'm in, I'm out. And of course, now there's a bunch of social media, bits of him walking out. But yeah, and scene. What's your rating, sir?
My rating, considering all the ballyhoo and shenanigans around this match,
it was much ballyhoo and shenanigans.
A 4.5.
Wow.
I felt the tag match was very well done. I thought the drama around the match was very well done. That the characters, the principles in the match were true to their characters, and I especially enjoyed the spot, like I mentioned, with Cody taking out Jacob Fatu and kind of giving Roman the go finish this because I can't. And then The Rock coming out, and who knows what the 1, 2, 3 means, that he threw up.
WrestleMania has a video on it. Who knows if there's actually any content within that video, but there is a video on it.
We don't know if Rock is aligned with Bloodline 2.0. We who knows what this means at this point.
It's got to be 2.0, right? I mean, because somebody's got to prop Solo up, right?
I did read a rumor that potentially, and this is why I texted you when this was going on, that Heyman might show up, backing Rock.
Yeah.
Which would have been kind of interesting.
I wonder if you need it, though.
Well.
Because, I mean, The Rock is The Rock.
Yeah, but it would still be different to have Heyman backing him.
Yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be a different twist on, like, everyone's expecting him to come back as, like, the conquering hero, because of the fact he got powerbombed through the table. But it would be a very different effect if he comes out with the guy that has aligned himself with the people who put him through that table.
And that's the part that rubs me the wrong way, is like, oh, well, it was all a trick. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Like, unless it's this uncomfortable alliance of, like, The Rock literally bought out Paul Heyman somehow. I don't know how that works logistically.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was very impressed with this match. 4.25 stars.
All right. Nice. I think we both thought this was above the 4-0 line because it was a really well done match, well paced and well executed.
Yeah, and delivered on what it needed to.
Yes.
Furthered the story, but at the same time leaves a lot of options open, which is, kind of if there's one trademark of the Paul Levesque era, trademark WWE 2024, it is leaving your options open. There is a pretty much every storyline that you look at, you're like, it's not heading down one track. It is literally at the switching yard, and there's 4 or 5 tracks it could go to. And then you go down one, you're like, all right, well, surely this is going to now determine. It's like, no, there's a couple of tracks that could go off of here too.
Yeah.
Very much like setting up a lot of different options, and the way that they're interweaving a lot of their talent into, like, storylines and just in the background in a lot of ways, setting things up for later on. Like the entire thing with Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, all that with Cody Rhodes. Who knows if that's going to pay off right now?
Right.
Because, I mean, the thing is, like, so what? The next PLE is Crown Jewel.
Mm-hmm.
So we already know what Cody Rhodes is up to. He's going to be facing Gunther.
Yep.
So obviously he's not facing Kevin Owens.
Right.
So does now Kevin Owens go over? Do we get a Kevin Owens defecting to the Bloodline 2.0 for War Games? Or, I mean, or does that just leave on simmer and like he's just constantly taunting him as he goes? Who knows? Like, you've got so many different options, and then of course is Randy Orton, waiting in the wings, and then we have the entire unknown of, come January, John Cena dropping into this for his retirement tour, and he's got history with a whole bunch of guys.
Yep.
Including CM Punk. Like, how's this all going to work? There's so many options. That, I think, is the hallmark of what Trips has been doing, is like, there's just so many different ways you could go with this. It kind of it's fun because it keeps you guessing.
Right. Yep. 100%. Agree.
So overall, how do you feel about this one? You feeling like this is a strong event?
Yes, I think regardless of what happened with Bayley and Nia, I feel like I got to give this event a 4-0. I think the Hell in the Cell match just elevates the event far above and beyond, what some of the other undercard matches put forth. I felt the Priest Balor match was strong. And then I think the main event was extremely strong with a surprise with The Rock at the end. So I got to give it a 4-0. Just 2 amazing matches, 2 kind of meh matches, and then a very reasonable middle match.
Yeah. The mem, I in a way, I feel like we were talking about with Star Wars. They can't all be winners. And I'm getting to the point now. whereas in the bag for Katie Sackhoff as I am,
Yeah.
I am that far in the bag for Rhea Ripley as well.
Mhm.
Like, I almost feel a personal embarrassment when it's like, oh, that match didn't quite. I'm so sorry. Let me like in the Grand Budapest Hotel. I'd like to apologize on behalf of the hotel. I'd like to apologize on behalf of Rhea Ripley for this match. I had nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
It's that sort of thing where I wish that match were better. I wish I could find some way to make that shine, but it didn't. And I would agree. I'd probably. You went with a 4?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I think that's about right. And again, it is the bookends. It's the strength of the bookends. The middle, uneven, but at the same time, like, this is one of those times when you have to kind of compare to, like, go back to like some of the early WrestleMania cards, like Showcase of the Immortals, and see some of the crap that was on those cards. Like, you're pretty lucky to have. They would have WrestleMania 1 would have killed to have had Priest Balor.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't they have like Buddy Rose under a hood?
I think so.
Wrestling like Special Delivery Jones.
Yep.
They would have Vince.
Good old Special Delivery Jones.
Vince would have killed for Priest.
Never really
Balor.
delivered.
So yeah, I'll go with a 4.0 for this one.
All right. Fair enough.
Oh, well, it was a good match, good event, and we'll see what they have in Crown Jewel. Although that one's going to be interesting because we've got some stuff set up for, because one of the things we didn't mention here is the Triple H announcement, the
yes.
Gunther Goldberg Sammy segment, where we're going to have the two world champions, the men's and women's.
Yes.
So Liv and we have Niv versus Liv versus Nasal Jax. Crap.
Yep.
Can we get the belt off her between now and then? Can we just like transfer Rhea over to wherever?
I think on the men's side, this is going to be Cody going over because I think we're going to see Goldberg appear and cost Gunther the match.
Well, that's the
thing. That's going to lead to a Gunther Goldberg showdown.
Well,
which I think is going to be interesting.
The thing is, it makes the most sense if you could have a Gunther Goldberg match for Crown Jewel, because Goldberg is that big name, and Crown Jewel, any event in Saudi Arabia seems to be like that alternate universe. Is like, it's kind of canon, but not really. Because, I mean, for years, Sami Zayn wouldn't go to Saudi Arabia. Now CM Punk apparently doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
You've got the weirdness of like, the dudes can go out there in like a fracking, spandex thong apparently, but the women have to be like covered from head to toe.
Yeah.
Which is just an odd look. But it's like, it's this weird alternate universe that doesn't necessarily seem like it counts in canon. So it would be the perfect place to have like Goldberg, because I mean, didn't they do that with so many matches? Like wasn't Goldberg Undertaker Saudi Arabia, or no? That was at WrestleMania. It was Saudi Arabia. And then we had the the Brothers of Destruction versus DX, which. So yeah, it feels like the dumping ground of like, well, hey, you've never seen these guys before, right? But, well, then again, maybe they have an impromptu, because Goldberg has been on record as saying he wants one more match.
Yep.
So maybe there's an impromptu sort of thing.
And I think it makes sense for him to put over Gunther. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And if
the rumor I'm reading online is that they're going to build, Gunther's going to hold the championship at least until WrestleMania. And I think they may build to a Cena Gunther WrestleMania match where Cena goes over and breaks the 16 world title reign that Flair holds and goes and becomes 17 time champion. So
totally makes sense.
I think that makes a lot of sense to do that.
And I would think even Flair, if you catch him sober, would admit that is a reasonable thing. I've been watching the old Stone Cold Broken Skull sessions with Undertaker.
Oh yeah.
And he talks about like, putting Ric Flair to sleep. He's like, not many wrestlers I've put to sleep, but Rick is like, all right,
yep,
let's go.
Yep, here
And
we go.
eventually, he's like, it was that plane with a 2 on the side and 2 on the side and a 5 in the middle, and
yep,
laid Rick out on the 5, had him like this, like a paper napkin with 2 little fangs.
Yep.
It's like, I can totally believe that Flair would have been that bombed that you could manipulate him into that position. And he probably would have been like, best sleep I ever had. What are these things I'm chewing on? Is that napkin? Oh, okay. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Gunther should hold it for a while.
Yeah.
And then, have Cena break that record. Why not? You have the opportunity. When else are you going to have this opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Randy Orton's the next one on the list because he has 15 world championship.
Think so. Yeah.
He's the next, and he's in terms of he's right there with John Cena in terms of oh my gosh, these guys are ancient in comparison to everybody. After that, who's third? That's the big question, because how many years are you going to have to go? It's like the Undertaker streak. It's never going to happen again because it took so long before it even got recognized as a thing. And then the streak legit probably only had 12 years of an actual thing. You got to get that first initial over the hump. I mean, who's had that many championships, who's still active, who could still believably do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Why not? It's a fake friggin' thing anyways.
Yep.
And you know what? If you have the cash in the coffers, have Ric Flair come down and give him the championship. I'm sure Rick will do it,
Yep.
That'd be great. But anyways,
I would agree.
Yeah, it'd be great to see Goldberg put over Gunther. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's his kind of swan song, if you will.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, good event. And
phenomenal event. Really, really well done. Well done.
And I will say I don't think we'll see too much of that Royal Crown Jewel Championship aside from that night.
No,
it's okay.
Gaudy.
It's gaudy, but I mean it's all right. It's like, gee, thanks. All right, sir. What have you got for and another thing?
This is kind of a repeat from actually probably around last year at this time. Over the weekend, Nate Bargatze, the stand-up comedian, hosted Saturday Night Live this past Saturday. So what would that put us at? Let's see, 7/6/5, probably October 5th. And I would highly recommend you watch it, not just for certain sketches, but it is probably top to bottom one of the more solid shows. He is just very funny. Probably one of the, I don't want to say he's the only, but one of the few very clean comedians who just have a very understated way of bringing just the laughs through their observations of life and their experiences and that sort of thing. The sketches that he participates in, though, are just absolutely hysterical. He does a follow-up to last year at this time. He did a really kind of the inaugural sketch of what's called Washington's Dream, where he plays George Washington and talks about all the ways that America is going to be, just wonderful in terms of choosing their own system of measures. And this one, it talks about, the English language and gets into several different aspects of it, which is really funny.
When he's talking about Fahrenheit, how do you spell that? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. What's in a hot dog? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
There's another sketch where they play it up as kind of a Golf Channel sort of thing. And he plays this golfer who just cannot not maim some sort of creature with his golf. It's really funny the way they do it. You've got to see it. I can't do it justice. Have you ever been a golfer? I seem to. Yeah.
Do you still play?
Not regularly, but on occasion.
Because the funny thing is, I think at a certain point, every white dude has been a golfer,
mm-hmm.
and I have been, and I realized I'm terrible at it, and now I'm like, I don't understand how I spent that much time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that cracks me up is I'll get fascinated by John Daly videos. They'll pop up on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I'll watch. You know what? I would watch John Daly. Like if there's a John Daly golf network, I would watch that dude. Like just loaded to the gills, barefoot, bearded, farting, just going out and playing around. I'll watch that because who knows what's going to happen. John might just completely puke behind a tree and then pee in the 18th hole. Who knows? But it's funny because I've realized I know a couple people, like, so friend of the show, Jim, who was on here talking about Tower Power. He is so into golf,
mm-hmm.
and like he golfs and he watches golf and all that. I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like
Yeah.
if I were to if someone told me like you have to watch golf every weekend, I'm like I'd be an alcoholic within a month because that's the only way I could possibly watch.
Mm-hmm.
An entire golf tournament over a weekend is absolutely loaded. That's the only way.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yep.
But anyways, I just felt I needed to add that. Anyways, Nate Bargatze.
There's another sketch they do that is a callback to if you ever watch Univision on a late Saturday night, Sabato Gigante. Marcelo Hernandez, who is now a regular cast member, does a just wonderful rendition of that show, and Nate Bargatze plays the American who has no concept of the Mexican language, of Spanish, and in any way, shape, or form, or their culture. And they're making fun of him. They're having degrading him, doing different. I mean, it's really, really funny the way they do it. A number of other sketches after that are just really funny. So just I would highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, probably on the Peacock, if not on Hulu, Saturday Night Live, Nate Bargatze, this past weekend, October 5th. Do check it out. You will not be disappointed. If anything, you will laugh and feel good about life after seeing.
Very nice.
How about you, sir? What is your and another thing?
So my and another thing is an album called The Quintet, Jazz at Massey Hall. This is from 1953. This is the only recorded performance, I believe, of this group, and it is one of those deals where like the quintet, like, okay, it's one of the legit times when you can say like, just saying like, yeah, these five guys, is merited. This was Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Bud Powell, Max Roach, and Charles Mingus, all playing together in the same band under one roof. Charlie Parker on alto saxophone, Dizzy Gillespie on trumpet, Bud Powell on piano, Max Roach on drums, Charles Mingus on bass. Legit five of arguably the greatest at their individual instrument jazz players.
Nice.
It is one of those things where you're like, holy crap, this exists? Like, these five dudes played together and it was recorded. Yes, let me listen to this over and over and over again. And I've listened to it and I'm like, it's one of those things where you truly understand, like, there is this other level of greatness, and it kind of goes to Bill Simmons talking about kind of like the Parthenon, when he talked about like, you have the different levels of like the Baseball Hall of Fame, and you get to that point where you're like at the very top, and that's where like Ted Williams and Ty Cobb or whoever you decide, and you hit that point where you're like, my God, these people were able to play and interact with each other.
Yeah.
It is rather amazing. And you listen to it, and the give and take musically is phenomenal, especially when you listen to it repeatedly, because you're like, oh, you could have done, in many ways, in a wrestling match, like you could have gone more and you could have tried to get your stuff in, but you decided to give and allow room for this other person. Okay, let them get their stuff in. Create a little space. Let's do this. Let's do that. And oh my gosh, so good. So fracking good. And even if you're not a jazz fan, like this is a great way to just be like, listen to it with an open mind and listen to the individual parts and know that all 5 of these people are so friggin' good at what they do. And yet you can hear them taking turns and being like, okay, now let me play the subservient role. Let me play the supporting role. Let me now make you look good.
Mm-hmm.
That is like the heart of music. And it is so great to see like 5 legit all-stars, Hall of Famers, whatever, immortals of music, of jazz music, and of any music, really, be able to do that is just phenomenal. So yeah, Jazz at Massey Hall, the Quintet, one of those groups that like, yeah, you should just be called the Quintet, because who else should call themselves that than these 5 dudes?
Nice. Can I just point out on our show notes, though, or on our outline, you have something completely different listed for your end of the thing.
I know, and I changed it.
This.
I changed it at the last minute because I was looking at my recently downloaded albums, and I was like, "Oh yes,
all right,
this takes precedence."
All right, very nice, very nice.
I was going for a tie-in with last episode, and then I decided at the last second, no, I'm going to zig when I should zag.
Nana. That's right.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. We thank you so much to all the members of the Free Range Idiocy congregation, whether you be watching or listening. Thank you all very much. If you have not joined the Free Range Idiocy congregation, ladies and gentlemen, we don't even pass a collection plate. This is the easiest congregation you've ever joined. We ain't even asking for $350. Which, I mean, quite honestly, for the amount of work we put into this, we'd be damn justified in asking for $350.
Indeed.
Don't you think? This is worth $350.
Indeed.
But no,
Amen.
we don't. We don't pass the collection plate. We don't pass the basket. We don't do nothing. We don't have a tip jar. Nothing. No Cash App. Venmo. I don't know any of the shady stuff that people do, but we don't ask for any of that. We just ask that you subscribe. That's how you join the Free Range Idiocy congregation. You go to freerangeidiocy.com, and what you find there is you find all of our shows. You can download them one at a time. You can download them all. You can subscribe.
Maybe call Tim needs some more bourbon.
Well, I mean, Tim definitely needs $350. But actually, no, he doesn't need $350. I need $350. He's got a good corporate job. I'm like hanging on. I'm hanging on by one cheek, ladies and gentlemen. Hanging on by one cheek. You don't think a cheek can grip, but you get close enough that cheek. Anyways,
clench.
The clench is strong with this one.
Oh my god! Oh, wrap it up.
I'm sorry.
Oh god!
I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
No, you're not.
That was actually really good. So, anyways, you can
podcasting magic right there, ladies.
It was, and magic, and
if you will,
you can subscribe right there through the Podbean app. If you decide, I got enough apps in my life, I just want to stick with the apps that I know. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Pandora. You can find us on whatever the hell Amazon is calling their podcast service these days. Just talk to your speaker and ask for Free Range Idiocy. They'll pull us up. And if not, well, you're probably listening to something completely asinine, so don't do that. And many other podcast purveyors. You can find us on video, ladies and gentlemen, now on Spotify. You can toggle between the audio and the video. Hey, aren't you? You can also find us on the YouTubes. You can find us in full glorious 1080p.
Yes. Some would argue whether we deserve to be in that sort of format.
We don't.
And rightfully so.
That's why I shrink us down a little bit.
Good God.
But you can find us on the social medias. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are on the YouTubes. All of those are at Free Range Idiocy.
It did it again.
I know. I keep
2 episodes in a row.
It's not even 2. It's probably 3 or 4. Free Range Idiocy. You can find us at Free Range Idiocy. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, offers of outright bribery, we are not above, below, or beside them. You can send all those to Tim at freerangeidiocy.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, time for me to turn this over. Pass the torch, if you will, to the man who's sitting next to the man. who's sitting next to the man,
Mm-hmm.
who's sitting next to the man, who's sitting next to the damn man, who called that man a piccolo player. But the man who is the lesser idiot of the two idiots who run this show. But not before I ask the second most important question in all of human history. The first, of course, being, what is hip? The second being, what in the hell did we learn this episode, sir?
We have learned the following.
Oh,
we have learned that when it comes to the fantasy gridiron, right now, at least, the man they call Tim is a little bit ahead of Uncle Tom. But it's early in the season. We will see.
You are worse than Hulk Hogan.
We've also learned that the man they call Tim is a culinary maven.
Make him humble.
Well, he tries to be. But between the chili cook-off and the flank steak, followed by the brats and Brussels sprouts, we have had a full weekend of food, revelry, and fun.
And it's also good that Tim buys his toilet paper in bulk.
Indeed. We do go to Costco. We have the membership, and we do buy the TP there.
So do you also buy the wipes? Because those are key.
I do not buy the wipes. We buy the TP. We buy the paper towel. We buy the Pellegrino.
You got to go with the wipes. Go with the Cottonelle wipes. It's a little bit of luxury right there between your cheeks.
Okay. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, do you see what I have to put up with? We have also learned that Star Wars fans need to kind of tone it down a smidge. Let's not hand out blame like it's candy. Let us enjoy. Let us revel. Let us embrace the change that is coming. The expansion, if you will, of the Star Wars universe.
And if not, let us
shoot it down.
Let us just wipe that away
with the Cottonelle wipes, apparently, that Uncle Todd so vociferously backs.
I've got like 1,000 of them, dude. It's crazy.
We have learned that Vince McMahon apparently has shredded his vocal cords to the tune of sounding like a bullfrog, which leads to apparently 4 hours of footage cut from his own documentary because apparently they deemed it not suitable to have the audience partake in. So
couldn't we have had a moment where we had that, ribbit?
Hello,
my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime. Can we have, isn't this what AI is for?
I think so.
I hate this stuff.
We've also learned that WandaVision, the MCU characters will take on different roles when passed from director to director, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with that. We have learned Bad Blood is a solid event. Uncle Todd, the man they called Tim, giving it a solid 4.0 rating. But do check out, and I think Shiki will back me on this, do check out at least the Hell in a Cell match from this event. It is top-notch and brings some brutality and realism back into professional wrestling between Punk and McIntyre. Both men deserve some kudos on that match, as well as Cody and Roman and Solo and Jacob Fatu putting on a phenomenal main event, wrapped up by none other than the final boss, The Rock, showing up with the People's Championship. Yes, thank you, sir. All that being said, we thank you for your listenership, and as we wrap this up and try to keep this slightly under 3 hours, be safe, be healthy, be kind, be good to one another. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. The range is closed for now. Until next time, as we like to close it. See.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
I beg your pardon, what did you say?
Damn!
You're such a disappointing pair. I prayed so hard for you. Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
So say we all.
So say we all.
And Heyman, show up, you diabolical genius, you.
Now, if Heyman were to show up, would it be, I don't know,
No. Nope. I appreciate that song, but if Heyman shows up, it's going to be more as the head of a cult, if you will, the cult of personality. If you can play that, please.
No, because the thing is, as much as I love Cult of Personality, I watched the Bobby Roode entrance from, what was it, Toronto or something?
Mm-hmm.
And the choir.
Oh, yes.
And then when he showed up, the crowd singing.
Yes. Yep.
Like, it's one of those things where I really want Bobby Roode to become one of the on-air GMs. Just so we can have one more entrance like that. For him and for us.
Nice.
You know, I don't want to be totally selfish. Like, let's give the man one more try. You know, one more chance, because I know he had some physical ailments and all that. Like, let's give him one more moment for that.
Give him a moment. Absolutely.
You know, like, because I think people would lose their ever-loving minds.
But in honor of the Hell in a Cell, could we please? The man won.
Uncle Corny.
He delivered.
This one's for you.
As we like to end things, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. Ah! And guitars.
Now get the hell out of here!